Okie dokie. So, Heels is off to the hospital. So, we're going to keep her in our thoughts and our prayers. And, whew, that was heavy, right? Let me get the trial back up and back it up to where it kind of went and was paused. So give me just 1 second to do that real quick. Let me get it on the screen for you guys. I want to back it up to where it was. Let's see. I'm guessing it was somewhere over here. I'm going to have to listen to check.
And when your wife leaves the house and she's driving, is that correct?
She was.
And
No.
do you recall which car she took?
She took her car, Ford Explorer.
Was it before this or
At some point, did you go to bed?
Yeah, me
I did.
too.
And about what time was that?
Me too.
Probably, I saw the snow start coming down. Probably 11:30, 12, maybe midnight.
And about the time you mentioned that you had been aware that there was a storm coming in, correct?
Yes.
About the time that you went to bed around midnight or so, what, if anything, did you observe? Did you look outside or see anything?
It was snowing. So
And in relation to that, what, if anything, could you hear while you were in the house sort of making?
the wind was hitting the windows. You just knew it was a storm.
Now, you go to sleep with your wife, correct?
That's right. Yes.
And at some point, the next morning on the 29th, what, if anything, is it that wakes you up?
A voice on my wife's phone was yelling, like screaming, frantic on the. It wasn't, and that woke me up. So I asked, what is that?
And initially, did you recognize that voice on your wife's phone?
I didn't recognize it, but I just couldn't make out the words. But it was just a screaming.
And could you hear anything as far? You couldn't make out the words.
I couldn't make out no.
And at some point, did you recognize that voice or come to find out who was on the other end of the phone?
Yes, I did. It was Karen Reed.
And about what time of the morning was that?
I see 5 o'clock would be a good guess.
And as far as you wake up, you hear the screaming, what happened?
My wife gets up. She starts getting crazy and then putting her clothes on and running out. I'm telling her not to go because the weather was pretty bad at that point. And of course she goes.
So she doesn't listen to you and she continues to get dressed and go?
Yes.
And when you say the weather was pretty bad at that point, can you expound upon that as far as what you
saw? It was snowing. It was very windy. It was snowing heavy.
Where she was going.
Said, hey. John's missing, and I got to go.
Hey.
I don't know exactly what she said, where she was going.
And from the time that you initially sort of wake up around 5 a.m. or so to the screaming on the phone to the time that your wife, Miss Roberts, leaves your house, how much time had elapsed between those two things?
By the time I woke up until she left, I'd say 15 minutes.
And when your wife leaves the house and she's driving, is that correct?
She was.
And do you recall which car she took?
She took her car, Ford Explorer.
That's an SUV, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what color the Ford Explorer was?
It's gray.
Now, after she leaves, when is the next time that you spoke to your wife?
She called me on the phone. I forget. I can't really recall exact times now. They tell me that they found John. He's in the ambulance. They bring him to the hospital. And she was going to get Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe.
And by Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe, who did you understand that?
John and John's parents.
Did you know John's parents?
I did.
Did you know where they lived?
I did.
And where did they live?
In Braintree.
So your wife calls you, tells you Mr. O'Keefe's in an ambulance and she's going to Braintree to get his parents.
That's right.
And after you heard that, what is it that you did next?
I believe I snowblowed the driveway, got it ready because I knew she's going to come home in a mood.
Clear your driveway.
So she could, yes, because it was, yes.
Now, when you go out to clear the driveway at the time that your wife calls you, about how much snow was in the driveway at that point?
I'd say there was drifts of at least a foot or so. It was pretty good. It was a lot. Tough to get the car in.
And if you know about what time was it that your wife returned home at?
8 o'clock. I don't know exact time.
And when you say 8 o'clock, you mean 8 o'clock in the morning or night?
AM.
8 a.m. If I may have just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Roberts, you and I have never met, correct?
Correct.
That night that you went out to CF McCarthy's, where you were sort of pressured or goaded into going out, you did get a chance to observe John O'Keefe at the bar, correct?
I did, yes.
Did you ever see him wearing a puffy jacket?
Never.
Did you ever see a puffy jacket around his chair that he was sitting in?
Not that I recall, no.
Ever see him holding a puffy jacket?
No.
Now, you noticed on the video, one of the last videos that Mr. Lally played for you, that prior to your making the Irish exit there, you did have some interaction with Karen Reed, correct?
I believe so at the end.
You saw that the two of you were at one point face to face.
I did for a brief.
Yes, it
Brief.
was, maybe 10 or 20 seconds.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
It does.
And when you were face to face, you were looking at her and she was looking at you, correct?
Yes.
And there was some type of interchange between the two of you.
Maybe I was just saying bye. I don't recall. I don't
Now, you
know.
probably don't remember the specifics of
No, I
what
don't.
the conversation was, but there appeared to be some type of small conversation.
I saw her from the video, yes.
And while you were speaking to her, you had no indication that she was slurring her words in any way, correct?
I didn't think so, no.
No. Her eyes didn't appear to be bloodshot and glassy, correct?
Correct.
She wasn't swaying or stumbling in any way, correct?
Correct.
She didn't appear to be confused in her thinking or her speech.
She did not.
She appeared to be normal, correct?
Yes.
There was nothing about her demeanor or her interaction with you that would lead you to believe that she was under the influence of alcohol at that time.
No, not.
And during the time that you spent with them at the bar, you didn't see any evidence of any problems between Karen and John O'Keefe?
I did not.
No arguments or bickering or anything like that?
No.
Neither one of them was complaining about the other, correct?
Correct.
Were you able to see any of the affection between the two of them, either physically or with regard to what they were saying?
I didn't see any.
All right.
Any.
It seems like you were more concentrated on,
I was talking with the guy.
we're talking with Mike at the bar. And,
Sure.
But you had known Karen, or at least known of her, and had some interactions with her for, I believe your testimony was about a year or two.
Yes.
During that time, there was some interaction with Karen at your house because there were pickups and drop-offs that had to be made.
Yes.
And you would see that, you know, Karen had been to your house when you were there, specifically to pick up your son, correct?
Yes.
How often would that occur?
I don't recall. Not, I don't think,
Both times?
maybe. And she,
And she would pick him up to either take him to school or sports or some activity,
I
correct?
believe it was normally like the baseball, maybe. I believe. I don't know. I don't arrange that stuff. My wife takes care of that, so I don't arrange for the pickups, and it's usually my wife does that. So I can't tell you exactly what it was for.
No, I understand. I'm just getting the fact that you were present when these pickups occurred.
Yes.
And that would be because Karen was sort of shuttling, you know, either Kaylee or Patrick to events, correct?
Correct.
And when there was an intersection with, specifically with regard to Patrick and your son, she would take both of them, correct?
Yes.
And from your observations of Karen Reed during those, you know, that 1 or 2 years that you would come into contact with her, the contact you had was mainly surrounding what happened with the kids, correct?
Yeah, I would say mainly.
And she appeared to be responsible, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Yannetti.
Sure. She appeared to be caring toward the kids, did she not?
Objection.
Overruled.
May we approach?
Okay. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch.
They are approaching, so wonder what they're going to argue out now. I'm glad that the judge said feel free to stand up and stretch, though. Like, because sitting in those seats for quite some time is, you know, look at Paul O'Keefe, though. He's a freaking rock star. He's just a rock star. Like, he's got to stare right at the side of Karen's face. Yeah, you could send Kathy the link because I know she was planning on popping back on Heels' when she was done at Walmart or whatever.
Okay.
Oh, you can send it to her for here so she can
will.
pop on when she's done. I'm about to let me text Grant and see if
No one does food like Puerto Rico. Whether it's a chef
In case
tasting
you drop the link, you have a
with no
pink
sign.
screen, right?
stupid commercials. Like, what the hell?
You
Just
have a peen
randomly
screen.
too.
You have a peen screen to put up to
Yeah, I
protect your channel, right?
What do you mean?
In case you drop the link for anybody, you know, to put the peen screen up when they come up, so that way you don't get peen bombed or something. You go to
Well, I
overlay.
only send it privately. That's
Oh,
why I
okay.
don't send.
Okay.
I don't post
I
it
didn't
like
know.
she does.
Okay.
Like I send it
that's all
privately,
I-
so only the yeah.
Okay, that's all I was trying to make sure of, is that I didn't know
Yeah.
if you were going to post it like what Heels does. If you were, I was going to remind you
No.
about your peen screen. Okay.
Yeah, no, I usually just send it privately. That way, nobody who's not supposed to be isn't there. Like she needs like her face. I just like she has to know. She can't even like wait 10 seconds for them to tell her. She has to know right that
Just
very second.
One question for you, just to sort of alter the last question that I asked you. From your read on this, it appeared to you as though Karen was caring for the kids and caring about them, correct?
Correct.
Nothing.
Okay. Any follow-up, Mr. Lally?
Briefly, just one question, sir. As far as your observations of Miss Reed in regard to Mr. O'Keefe and in regard to the children, that was what you observed, correct?
That's right.
And so as far as what, if anything, went on behind closed doors or in their relationship, you weren't really privy to that?
I was not.
Nothing further.
All right, Mr. Roberts, you are all set, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor, the Commonwealth to call Miss Rebecca Traers to the stand.
I sent it to Kathy via email.
So the evidence you give the court and jury in the case center hearing should be the truth, the whole truth.
Okay, perfect.
So help you God. And just keep your voice up, please.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and just spell your last name for the jury?
Rebecca Trayers, Trayers.
Ms. Traers, what do you do for work?
I am a bartender.
And where is it that you work as well?
Waterfall Bar and Grill
And where is that located?
in Canton, Massachusetts.
And how long have you worked there in that capacity?
About 7 years.
And in relation to where in Canton, Massachusetts is the Waterfall located?
In the center.
And is there a typical sort of shift or nights that you would work in regard to working at the Waterfall?
At the moment, it's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights.
And when you work sort of the nights, what time is it sort of that you start and what time is it that you typically close?
The shift starts at 5 and we are by volume. So it's once like people start leaving, generally around 10 to 11.
And sort of what is the latest that, based on volume, if people are sort of hanging around in the bar, when would you sort of, last call, turn the lights on kind of thing?
12:45 is the latest that we could do last call.
Now, during the shifts that you work, about how many people, or like what does sort of the staff look like in regard to sort of your evening shift?
For upstairs, there's typically like 2 of us with a couple of food runners.
And with regard to entertainment, does the Waterfall have certain nights of entertainment, sort of live entertainment within?
Fridays and Saturdays,
And what kind of entertainment would be there on a Friday or Saturday?
bands.
Is that sort of the same bands over and over, or is it sort of different bands as it goes?
They rotate throughout months.
Now, were you working at the Waterfall in that capacity around or on January 28th, 2022?
Yes.
And let me ask you, stepping back for a second, just more general questions. What time does the Waterfall typically open?
Open like 11 a.m.
So basically 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. or based on volume when you close?
Is that yes, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, with respect to the Waterfall, if you could just sort of describe, I know it's located in the Canton Center area, but what kind of building is it? What, if anything else, is sort of around it?
It's in a condo unit.
So in a condo sort of complex?
Yeah.
And is there a parking lot associated with both the complex and with the Waterfall?
Yes.
And as far as entrances and exits, how many of those each are there?
4.
And what is sort of the typical entrance that people would come in?
There's typically 2, one in the front and then one on the back by the patio.
And so the one by the front is, where is that in relation to the parking lot?
It's right outside the parking lot.
And so if I walk into that front door over by the parking lot and come in, can you describe for the jury sort of the layout or like sort of how many tables, what kind of tables that you observe there?
When you initially walk in, you walk into like the lounge area. There's about 7 or 8 high tops and then probably 4 or 5 low tops. And then right beyond that is the bar area, which leads into the patio. And we have 2 back rooms also, but those aren't typically used.
And as far as high tops and the low tops, starting with the low tops, about how many chairs would typically be around the low top?
4.
And as far as high tops, how many chairs?
6 and 2. We have both.
Now, is there, in addition to being a bar, is it also sort of a restaurant you serve food?
Mhm.
And is there sort of how is that staffed as far as the kitchen staff is?
In the kitchen, there's typically 2 cooks at a time. It's downstairs.
And maybe pretty well understood, but just as far as your duties and sort of responsibilities as a bartender, what is it that you do?
I serve drinks and take food orders.
Now, are there people, do you have sort of regular customers that come in on a fairly regular basis?
Yes.
With respect to the bar, is that sort of a full service bar?
What would full service be?
4 questions. Let me rephrase. So you have beer and wine, is that correct?
Yes.
And is there sort of mixed drinks and cocktails and things of that nature as well?
Yes.
Now, when it comes to the glassware that the Waterfall has, where does that typically, where does that come from?
Like, where do we buy it? Is that what you're asking? Typically a Restaurant Depot.
And is there like a certain type of, well, let me start back. So if you're getting something that's either a draft beer or wine cocktail, does the type of drink that you're ordering have any reflection in the type of glass you would receive?
For the most part, yes.
And as far as if you're, let's say, getting a non-alcoholic drink, how would that typically be served?
In a pint glass.
I'm sorry, what was the answer?
A pint glass.
Thank you.
And if you were getting a mixed drink or a cocktail, how would that typically, what kind of glass would that typically be served?
In like a shorter one.
And the shorter sort of cocktail glass, as far as the weight of that, would that be heavier or less heavy than the pint glass?
The same.
And as far as the sort of thickness of that cocktail glass, would it be thicker at the bottom or thicker at the top or something?
We have different short glasses, but the bottoms are typically heavier in glasses.
Now, on that particular evening of January 28, 2022, do you recall whether or not there was any sort of musical entertainment in the bar that night?
There was a band.
And do you recall the name of the band or what kind of music they played?
No.
But it was a live band, is that correct?
Yep.
And when a live band is performing at the Waterfall, where is it in regard to the layout that you were just describing that band would typically set up?
When you walk into the building, it's left of the high tops. There's like a small alcove. We move tables for them.
And once the band is done, what, if anything, do you do with that space once the band clears out?
We put the tables back.
Now, with respect to the Waterfall, are you familiar with whether or not there's any sort of security or camera recording in there?
There's cameras.
And as far as the cameras are concerned, do you know sort of where they're situated in relation to the bar?
For the most part, yes.
And fair to say there's at least some interior cameras and some exterior, correct?
Yes.
And with regard to this specific evening of January 28, 2022, have you had occasion to see some of that video from that particular evening?
Yes.
You know what I may approach?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit, a copy of the surveillance video from the waterfall.
Okay, is there any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask to publish just certain small portions of that at this time.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Gilman, if I could ask for just the first video with the label as far as channel 1. If you could just pause right there. Now, Ms. Traers, what's up on the screen? Do you recognize generally what that is?
Yes.
And what are we looking at?
Waterfall parking lot.
And so this is the parking lot that you were referring to as sort of the front door that leads out to the parking lot for both the condo place and food bar.
Yes.
And the video, as far as you're aware, is date and time stamped, and those dates and times are accurate, correct?
The
If you
date,
know.
yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
thanks. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. And Ms. Gilman, if I could have from channel 3, the first video associated with channel. And if you could just pause there. So Ms. Traers, before you, I think on that desk should be a laser pointer.
Mhm.
So basically all you need to do with that is just click the button on top and then point it at the screen if and when I ask or anybody asks.
Okay.
So again, what's up on the screen right now, do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what do you recognize that?
The lounge area of Waterfall.
And if you could, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention first to that area that you were speaking about where a band would normally perform.
Let's find right here.
And that's where the band was that night.
Yes.
And the high tops and low tops, if you could direct the jury's attention to where those would be located.
So these are the 6 people ones, the 2 people, and then low tops.
And as far as the bar area, sort of where you would be situated within the establishment when you're working as a bartender, whereabouts, if you could direct the jury's attention to whereabouts that.
All the way back here.
And sort of immediately adjacent or right in front of sort of where the bar area is, what kind of table or what, if anything, is closest to the bar?
High top.
Now, Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to take that one down. If you could, please go to the 6th video listed down for channel 3. And if you could pause there for a second. Now, Ms. Traers, directing your attention up to the video for the, up to the screen for the video that's now up there. You recognize this to be the waterfall as well.
Yes.
The timestamp on it says 1:29:12:01. Is that the AM? Is that correct?
Correct.
And fair to say that or what if any difference do you know sort of about the lighting in this video versus the one from earlier about 10:30 p.m. So,
This one's brighter.
and why is that?
We are getting ready to close.
You would have turned the lights on at that point.
Yes.
And as you're closing, what are some of the sort of final things that you're doing as you're sort of closing up shop?
Cleaning up.
Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to push this forward to about 15 minutes and 45 seconds. And Ms. Traers, from the date and time stamp up there, about what time is this? Does it say on the screen?
12:16 a.m.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could play this from this point till about 16 minutes and 8 seconds. You could pause there just a moment. The individual sort of walking from the top of the screen down towards the bottom, towards that front door area. Is that where the front door is?
Yes.
And if, again, if you could, just for the jury, just using the laser pointer, direct their attention to where that front door is.
Right here.
You recognize who that person was?
Yep.
Okay. Who was
Yes.
that?
That's me.
You were basically taking the trash, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just run it through to that 16 minutes. You can stop there and you can take that down, Ms. Gilman. Thank you very much. Now, from that evening of January 28th, 2022, I'm going to ask just a couple of people's names and then ask if you know them or recognize them as far as sort of people that you've seen in that establishment before. Okay. First, with respect to John O'Keefe,
I know of him.
and was he someone that you had seen in the waterfall before when you were working there?
A couple times.
Did you know him specifically by name, or did you just sort of know him as a familiar face?
First name.
And what is it typically that, you know, as a bartender, what is it typically that he would sort of order or get when he was?
I couldn't tell you. Don't know.
And I'm just asking as far as beer versus cocktail versus whatever else, if you know.
I'd say beer.
And do you recall seeing him in the waterfall on January 28th?
Yes.
And could you describe what, if any, interaction you had with him or when about that was in the evening?
He came up to order a beer.
And at the end of the night, there was one group that was sort of the last group to leave. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where were they sort of situated in the bar?
The high top, yeah, in the lounge closest to the bar.
And what, if any, association did you see with Mr. O'Keefe with regard to that group?
I believe he was standing with them.
Could you keep your voice up, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
And ma'am, if you want, so that microphone, you can move anywhere, so whatever is most comfortable. Thanks. Now, were you familiar with anybody as far as a female party that would accompany Mr. O'Keefe to the waterfall on that or prior occasions?
No.
And had you seen Mr. O'Keefe in there with or without any sort of female companionship?
Previously?
Yes.
No. Not that I'm aware of.
I'm sorry?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not the children.
Mhm.
Now, with regard to Christopher Alwood, did you know him?
I know of him.
And you're familiar with him as far as someone who came into the waterfall on occasion?
On occasion, yes.
About how often would he be in?
Once every few months.
And do you recall him on the evening of January 28th?
I actually don't remember.
And anybody, as far as anybody else from the Albert family, as far as Brian Albert, were you familiar with him?
I know of them.
And do you recall him being there on January 28th?
Yes.
And where was he in relation to the group that was at the high top table closest to the bar?
Same area.
And who, if anyone else from that group, did you recognize or did you know on that evening?
The only people I would have recognized would be Brian Higgins and Brian Albert's wife.
And do you even know what Brian Albert's wife's name is?
I forget.
And Mr. Higgs, is that someone that you had seen in there on prior occasions?
On occasion, yes.
And As far as Mr. Brian Albert, is that someone that you had seen there on prior occasions as well?
Same on occasion.
And had you seen Mr. Higgins and Mr. Brian Albert there together on prior occasions as well?
Yes.
I may have just one moment.
Okay.
Now, at some point following that evening of January 28th, do you recall troopers from the state police coming to the waterfall, speaking with you and speaking with the owner of the waterfall?
I spoke with them, not at Waterfall.
And are you at least aware that they received from the establishment not only the video, but some receipts from that evening as well?
Yes.
And have you seen those receipts on some prior date?
One.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
May I approach the witness room?
Yes.
Showing you 3-page documents, just ask in general terms, do you recognize what those appear to be?
Yes.
And obviously you work at the waterfall, you've seen receipts that are generated by the establishment before, correct?
Yes.
Do those appear to be receipts from the waterfall?
Yep.
Is there any sort of date?
I'm sorry, was there a yes or no answer?
Yes.
Thank you.
And with respect to the receipts that I've placed before you, do they have a date on them?
Yes.
And what is the date?
1/28/22.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Call will seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit.
Okay.
No objection.
Okay. Thank you.
I may have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
And Mr. Ayers, just one last question. With regard to some of the people that I had asked you about, as far as Mr. O'Keefe, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Christopher Albert, any of those parties that you knew them sort of exclusively through your work at the waterfall, correct?
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Giannetti?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms.
Good afternoon.
We've never met, correct?
No.
You had been a bartender at the Waterfall for how many years?
About 7.
And that was prior to January of 2022, or you've now been there for 7 years as of today?
As of today.
As of today. Prior to being a bartender at the Waterfall, did you have another bartending job somewhere else?
Yes.
Where was that?
I've worked at a couple places.
In what towns or cities?
A couple in Canton.
And the couple in Canton, was that immediately prior to moving to the Waterfall?
Yes.
All right. And we don't have to get into the names of them, but how many years were you a bartender in Canton prior to going to the Waterfall?
Prior to the Waterfall, about 4.
Okay. So for about the last 11 years, you've been a bartender at one establishment or another in the town of Canton, correct?
Yes,
Are you from Canton?
I am.
Did you grow up in Canton?
Yes.
And you no longer live in Canton?
I recently moved back.
Now you're back to Canton. I got you. Okay. And you had, I believe, testified on direct examination that you either know or know of the Albert family.
Correct.
You would agree with me that they are a well-known family in the town of Canton?
Objection.
Overruled.
Do I answer that?
Yes, you can
Oh.
answer. You can answer.
Said overruled, so you can.
I would say yes.
Okay. And how many members of the Albert family do you know either personally or professionally? And by professionally, I mean, obviously you're a bartender, and personally means that you know them in some other way.
It would only be professionally, and
Okay.
I'd say 3 or the whole family of the Alberts. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
5 of them.
Okay. And if I asked you the names of the Albert family that you know, would you be able to tell this jury?
Yes.
If you would do that, please.
There's Brian Alberts, Chris Alberts. I can't remember their wives' names
Okay.
at the moment.
You know their wives by,
Yeah.
by face?
Yeah, and then Brian's daughter, Caitlin.
Okay. And specifically with regard to Caitlin Albert, can you tell us, is there a difference in age between the two of you? Is she closer to your age than the others?
She's closer to my age. She's younger than me.
Okay. Did you see Caitlin Albert at the waterfall on the night of January 28th into the 29th of 2022?
Yes.
You also mentioned that you had seen somebody named Brian Higgins there, correct?
Correct.
He was somebody that you recognized prior to that day, correct?
Correct.
And how did you know or come to recognize Brian Higgins?
From Waterfall.
Did you know his name, specifically his last name, on January 28th when you were working that night?
Yes.
When did you learn his name, if you remember?
I don't remember.
At some point in the past, when he'd been in the bar, for some reason you knew his name, Brian Higgins.
Or yes.
And you had testified, I believe, on direct examination that you had seen Brian Higgins with Brian Albert at the waterfall on prior occasions.
Correct.
So, Ms. Gianetti, it's time for lunch. I don't imagine you'll finish in 5 minutes, right?
It won't be too much longer than that, but it's probably good to take a break.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Treyas, I'm gonna ask you to come back at 2, and jurors will take lunch.
Okay.
Jurors, if you would fold and leave your notebooks on the chairs, taking your property with you. All right, jury out.
Yeah. Let me just mute that in the background there. Hold on. Yeah. Yep, Voices is here. We don't know. We were told she's okay, Kodo. But she had some sort of accident and was on the way to the hospital. So we moved over here. We're keeping, her in our thoughts and prayers. But that's all we know right now. That's all we know right now. Let me bring us up on the screen here. Yeah, we were told she's okay. So, I mean, fingers crossed. We were told she's okay. So we're just keeping her in our thoughts right now. I'm sure someone will let us know, whatever's going on with her as soon as they possibly can. So we're all a little worried. So no problem. Totally welcome. So, I mean, this is, crazy. Did she manufacture receipts and alter the camera footage for the Alberts? Right. Like, I mean, come on, dude. She worked at a bar, so We can. I'm just not sure where the heck. Does anybody remember the last thing they heard before it was paused? Because we definitely can replay the short portion we missed if somebody can tell me whereabouts they think it was. Maybe. Maybe someone can go back to Heels' live and sort of click and see what the last thing that we heard was. Because the timestamp probably isn't going to help. But if you can go to see what the last thing that we heard was, maybe that would help us find it. Hold on a second. I'm looking. Just give me a second to see. Okay, Kodo's gonna look. We definitely did not miss a ton. We definitely didn't. I thought it was I thought it was the guy. Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure. Have to look. Mm. Let's see. If they were showing the camera behind the bar, they were showing the. Okay, hold on.
Hi, sorry. My
That's
grandma
okay.
called. So,
No. Oh.
hi. Sorry, grandma called. When that happens, I drop everything.
Yeah, no, I would too if my grandma was still alive. She raised me, so he was asking him. Okay, hold on. He was asking if he saw any injuries to John at the bar and where he went after the bar. Okay, all right. Then okay, let me try to scroll back to that and see if we can't catch up on that real quick. Trying to see this guy. Is it this guy? No, okay, it was definitely this guy because we definitely are past her.
Yeah, it's the one that said that he went to the bar.
He was a pussy. Yeah. Okay, wait, maybe here? Let's hold on. Let me unmute it first because I muted it.
Are we muted?
I am, just so people could hear.
I don't hear any sound.
Oh, you guys aren't? Oh, hold on. That's why. There's no audio right now because they're not saying anything. They're just playing the video.
Directing your attention still up to the screen, Mr. Roberts, there's another individual around yourself, Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano, was that correct?
Yes.
And do you recognize who that person is?
At the time, I didn't know. He doesn't look the same in this picture right now, but I believe it's Sully.
And that's someone at this time on January 28th, you didn't know who that was?
No, I did not.
You now do?
I do now. Yes.
Okay. Who do you know him to be in relation to sort of yourself and Mr. Camerano and Mr. O'Keefe?
Well, I know his son plays baseball on my son's baseball team. And I met him that night. We were talking.
This would have been the first time that you had met this person you now know as Sully.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, with reference to this evening, at some point, who, if anyone else, sort of came into the bar and joined your group?
Karen Reed.
And that was sometime after you had initially arrived, is that correct?
I believe so. Yes. It was after I had already been there, I believe.
And Ms. Stillman, if I could, from the same exhibit, but going to the fourth video down. And if I could ask you to bring it up to 22 minutes and 20 seconds. If you could just pause. Now, as far as Ms. Reed, you see Ms. Reed in this video?
Yes, I do.
And if you could, just using that laser pointer directly to your attention, where you see Ms. Reed?
Right there.
Now, Mr. Roberts, you were, fair to say, a little reluctant to come out that evening, is that correct?
That's correct.
And as far as timing, about how long was it that you stayed at CF McCarthy's before you left?
It's a good hour. 1 hour.
An hour or so?
So I was home by about 10:15. I was home.
And if you recall, about how many beers did you have while you were there?
Probably 3 or 4.
And what you were drinking, was that, as far as amount was concerned, was that the same, less, more so than sort of the other people that you were with?
Probably one more. I would think. I kind of drank them kind of fast because I was taking off.
So you may have lapped them by a round or something?
Sure. Yes.
Now, you mentioned what you and Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano were drinking. What, if anything, did you observe Ms. Reed to be drinking at that?
It was a clear glass with probably a lime in it. I'm assuming a vodka tonic, maybe. I'm not positive what it was, but it was a clear glass with.
And from your prior sort of interactions or socialization with Ms. Reed, is that something that she would typically drink?
Yes, I guess I would say.
And about what time was it, again, that you left?
I think I left about 10 o'clock. It took me a few minutes to get home. So
And with regard to when you left, did you sort of announce that to anybody, or how did you?
I usually don't, because then I'll have to deal with it again. But we walked out. Me and Michael Camerano, I believe, about the same time. I might have been a minute or two before him. That's all.
So you sort of exit and just sort of leave, and then at some point in time, around the time that you left, Mr. Camerano left as well.
That's right.
And Ms. Gilman, from what's up here as Exhibit 50, if I could ask you to just play from this point, so about 22 minutes and 50 seconds. And thank you, Ms. Gilman. You can take that. So the camera kind of caught your goodbye, correct?
I believe so. Yes,
So fair to say that was about the time that you left.
I would say.
And with regard to During the time that you were at McCarthy's with this group, including yourself, Mr. O'Keefe, Mr. Camerano, and Ms. Reed, how would you describe sort of the general tone or demeanor of the group while you were there?
Everything very normal. Just a few friends out having some drinks. Nothing that stands out.
No arguing, no anything?
No.
And as far as the clothing that I asked you about with regard to what Mr. O'Keefe was wearing, when you were there that night, did you notice anything as far as tears in the clothing or any dishevelment, anything like that?
No, I didn't notice anything.
And when you were there and you were talking to Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, sort of injuries or anything about him did you note as far as his face or anything else that you could see?
Nothing, no.
Now, once you left, where did you go?
I went home.
And do you recall when you got home? I think you've already said it, but about what time was it that you got home?
But I think 10:15 would be my best guess.
When you got home, who, if anyone else from your house, from your family, was there?
I believe my wife and kids were there. They're up in bed, but they weren't downstairs.
And at some point, did you go to bed that evening?
I did.
And about what time was that?
Probably I saw the snow start coming down. Probably 11:30, 12, maybe midnight.
And about the time you mentioned that you had been aware that there was a storm coming in, correct?
Yes.
About the time that you went to bed, around midnight or so, what, if anything, did you observe? Did you look outside or see anything?
It was snowing. So
And in relation to that, what, if anything, could you hear while you were in the house, sort of making
Oh.
your way to bed?
the wind was hitting the windows. You just knew it was a storm.
Now, you go to sleep with your wife, correct?
That's right. Yes.
And at some point, the next morning on the 29th, what, if anything, is it that wakes you up?
A voice on my wife's phone was yelling, like screaming, frantic it wasn't, and that woke me up. So I asked, what is that?
And initially, did you recognize that voice on your wife's phone?
I didn't recognize it, but I just couldn't make out the words. But it was just a screaming.
And could you hear anything as far? You couldn't make out the words.
I couldn't make out no.
And at some point, did you recognize that voice or come to find out who was on the other end of the phone?
Yes, I did. It was Karen Reed.
And about what time of the morning was that?
I'd say 5 o'clock would be a good guess.
And as far as you wake up, you hear the screaming, what happened?
My wife gets up. She starts getting crazy and then putting her clothes on and running out. I'm telling her not to go because the weather was pretty bad at that point. And of course she goes.
So she doesn't listen to you and she continues to get dressed and go.
Yes.
And when you say the weather was pretty bad at that point, can you expound upon that as far as what you
It
saw?
was snowing. It was snowing. It was very windy. It was snowing heavy.
And your wife, Carrie, did she say where she was going?
Said, John's missing and I got to go. I don't know exactly what she said, where she was going.
And from the time that you initially sort of wake up around 5 a.m. or so to the screaming on the phone to the time that your wife, Ms. Roberts, leaves your house, how much time had elapsed between those two things?
By the time I woke up until she left, I'd say 15 minutes.
And when your wife leaves the house and she's driving, is that correct?
She was.
And do you recall which car she took?
She took her car, Ford Explorer.
That's an SUV, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what color the Ford Explorer
It,
was?
it's gray.
Now, after she leaves, when is the next time that you spoke to your wife?
She called me. She called me on the phone. I forget. I can't really recall exact times now. They tell me that they found John. He's in the ambulance. They bring him to the hospital, and she was going to get Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe.
And by Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe, who did you understand that?
John and John's parents.
And did you know John's parents?
I did.
Did you know where they lived?
I did.
And where did they live?
In Braintree.
So your wife calls you, tells you Mr. O'Keefe's in an ambulance and she's going to Braintree to get his parents.
That's right.
And after you heard that, what is it that you did next?
I believe I snowblowed the driveway, got it ready because I knew she's going to come home in a mood.
To clear your driveway.
So she can, yes, because it was, yes.
Now, when you go out to clear the driveway at the time that your wife calls you, about how much snow was in the driveway at that point?
I'd say there was drifts of at least a foot or so. It was pretty good. It was a lot. Tough to get the car in.
And if you know about what time was it that your wife returned home at?
8 o'clock. I don't know exact time.
And when you say 8 o'clock, you mean 8 o'clock in the morning or night?
AM.
8 a.m. If I may have just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We see what Kodo said. Grant and
Good
Turtle Boy got
Good
into a little
afternoon.
spat this morning.
Mr. Roberts, you and I.
Yeah, I
have
missed
met,
that.
correct?
Correct.
Did
That
we
night
see
that
this
you
part
went out,
already?
To CF McCarthy's, where you were sort of pressured or goaded into going out. You did get a chance to observe John O'Keefe at the bar, correct?
I did, yes.
Did you ever see him wearing a puffy jacket?
Never.
Did you ever see a puffy jacket around his chair that he was
Mhm.
sitting in?
We've heard
Not
this.
that I recall,
Did you
no.
ever see him holding a puffy jacket?
No.
Now, you noticed on the video, one of the last videos.
All right, we
that
saw
Mr.
this part
Lally
already.
played For you, that prior to your making.
Yeah,
the
this is about
Irish
where I
exit
came
there,
in.
You did have some interaction
Okay.
with Karen Reed, correct?
I believe so at the end.
You saw that
right, hold
the
on.
two of you were at one point face to face.
I did.
Let me get this
Mm.
back down to where it's supposed to be.
Let me go find Kodo's. She said that we can play her little
Yeah,
video of
yeah.
of this. Let me go see if I can find it.
Yeah, see if you can find it. Well, the thing was, is there was already 10 seats. So there, the press is, I don't know what they're still doing about it, allowed to use space savers. And so there was already 10 people there. And I think Grant told them basically, like, get the F out of my line. Like, there's already 10 spaces saved there's only 10 press people allowed in. So he left. That's just what I heard about. But yeah, sad nothing, dude. Like with him, I just like I still don't understand how anybody believes a word that comes out of his mouth, because I've never met someone in my entire life that projects more than that man. He accuses everybody else of doing the exact same things he does on a daily basis. And I've never seen it before. Like, I've seen a narcissist in real life, but I've never seen one that bad, where they project and they accuse other people of doing the same thing they're doing. And they accuse good people. They lie and spin and accuse people that he can either expose him and tell the truth about him. So what he does is he slanders, exposes, and defames other people and makes a mountain out of a anthill to sort of discredit them before they can tell the world who he
Baby,
is. and what-
welcome to YouTube. That's the whole thing.
Right.
That's the whole, like, You just gave out the master plan of what YouTube is about.
It's just insane to me though with him. Like I've never seen anything like it in my life. And so originally I thought Karen was innocent because the only information we were getting, right, was all this crap. So when I got sick with pneumonia around November-ish, I was sick for like 6 to 8 weeks. It was terrible. I was having like coughing fits every like minute. So I couldn't do live streams. There's no way. I was like the coughing fits were lasting so long that like all you guys would have heard is me like coughing. So I stopped them while I was sick. And while I stopped them, I got this influx of evidence that came out, public and non-public. And I realized, holy shiitake mushroom, shut the front door. She's guilty. And
See, I came into this believing that she was innocent. Like
Me
I
too.
mean, maybe not innocent, but that it was an accident.
Accident, right.
Like, you know, that she wasn't innocent, but she's not, like, it was an accident. So it's not exactly guilt either. But the more I
Right.
keep seeing by what they're presenting in her defense, it's not
Right.
looking
And
good.
so you have to remember
I
some of
put
this
that link-
stuff.
I put that link in back
Okay,
chat
thank you.
too. So
Okay. Some of this stuff you have to remember, I knew way back in November and December, and there was a lot of things that I didn't want to slip up and say. I didn't want, things that weren't public for me to be the asshole that accidentally made it public. So I just didn't say anything. I said nothing. And I said nothing for a very long time, until I got back on Twitter after he, made his latest victim, Lindsay, who's now a very, very close, good friend of mine. And of course, what did he do there? He lied to the world about what happened. He lied to the world and said she made up a pregnancy that never happened. Lied and said there was no abortion. That's also false. He lied. And he continues to do so till this day. And what he doesn't realize is all those text messages and all that stuff, like, is going to come out at trial. And so what he does is he picks through, like, cherry picks things out of her phone and shows them to them and goes, here's the smoking gun. Like, one of them was like her saying like, oh, well, I would love to beat him at his own game or something like that. But what he didn't show, of course, his audience is the next message after that. Right. Is the next message after that literally says, not that it's a game because I'm telling the truth and he's lying, but he doesn't show them that part, right? It's the context of it because he omits everything that he has done that will make him look bad. First of all, when he found out she was pregnant, the only thing he was worried about was his followers. One of the first things he said was, I'm going to lose all my followers. Like that's all he's worried about. So it's like, he can say whatever he wants about me, about her, about whoever. The people who know us the best and the most know who we are. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's funny because I just don't get how any of these people cannot understand. Like, he can call every single person in the world a scammer.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Big Wireless has once again raised
a scammer, a grifter, all the things that he calls other people that he legitimately is, which is why it's like so sad that he does it. Like, but he like, if anybody noticed, like, every single person, acquaintance, love connection, like any certain, even just other YouTubers, like any person he gets in doesn't like what they do or say, or he calls them all the same things. You're a liar, you're crazy, you're a scammer, a grifter. Like, it's all the same things over and over and over. So, I mean, it's common sense that it can't be everyone else but him. He can't always be the victim. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so to play the victim 24/7, it's a giant conspiracy and cover up on him. Like, are you kidding? No, like, the fact that anybody believes that is mind blowing to me.
It's
like,
him against the world, yo. It's him against the
Right.
world.
Like, it's just mind blowing. Like, he tried to use like me being an addict, like, against me, like my old criminal record, which, I'm someone who prides myself on being someone who I'm going on 16 years sober from opiates this year. I don't smoke weed. I drink occasionally, maybe 10 times in an entire year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But that is not something I've ever hidden from the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something I've been very upfront about, because I went from a person who had a small criminal record and was an opiate user to someone who had been in jail to someone who then worked in a jail. I had to pass 2 background checks to work at Bridgewater State Hospital, which is a prison. I pride myself in being able to have changed my life and go from the, shitty part of life. And nobody wakes up and goes, hey, I want to be an opiate addict. You know what I mean? Like, it comes
I'm well
from,
aware. I got 17
Extreme
years
trauma.
clean from pills as well.
Yep,
I'm
good for you,
17
dude.
I'm 17 and 12. So
Yep,
17
so
from
it
pills
comes
and 12
from.
12 from drinking. So otherwise, I mean, if I
Right.
have a drink, I'm gonna break out into handcuffs. It's just, it's a
Yeah,
lot.
see,
It's
so some people, that's how it is. I'm so like, I love when people are like, you're not sober, you drink once in a while. Like, listen, I never had a problem with alcohol. Even when I
Right.
do drink, I might drink like 2 or 3 drinks and then I stop. Everybody else is like, you only had 3. Like, yeah, because I'm good. Like, I've never had an issue with alcohol, just the opiates. So, I mean, it's just like insane to me. Like, that's not something I ever hid from the world. So to try to use that as something bad, like, oh, well, you're a criminal and an opiate addict. And first of all, fentanyl wasn't even like a thing. It was very rare back then. Now it's everywhere. But back then it was like rare, you know? And so I got these crazy people like sending me emails and all this shit, calling me like a fetty addict and a junkie. Like, first of all, when you've been sober for as long as I have, like, you're not a junkie. You're recovered, right? And you're recovery. And recovery looks different for everybody. Some people are AA and NA. I don't do AA and NA. It's not my jam. I got sober on my own without all that. So it's just not my jam. It feels too culty for me. But for some people, it works. Like it works for them. And that's cool. Like whatever works for you personally, there's no one size fits all, in my opinion. Like there is no one size fits all. But what I've never hidden from the world is that I used to be an addict. I was a dancer for 10 years. Like none of these things were hidden from the world. So to try to like bring them up,
in the end, none of that really matters.
No,
Because of
I got sober when I was 21. I'm 37. Like,
oh well, see. Hey, before this starts, do you want to play that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it right now. Let me see. Oh, hey, Julie. Welcome, darling. All right, let's see. Why is it not going where I want it to go? What's happening here? No, where's the... God damn it. Why?
We don't have an update on Heels. The only thing that we know is that Trisha said she's going to be okay. So we're taking that message as she's going to be okay. Yep. So send her your positive vibes, thoughts, and prayers. And her stream did end, so we don't need to sit on it. Right. And make sure that nobody's saying anything untoward in there. So that's the update that we have on Heels.
That's all we got. All we know is that she's gonna be okay. So
she's okay, like and that's what we're going with. That's what Trisha told us. So if they say that she's okay, she's okay.
Yep. So we're going with that. All right, let's play this little kerfuffle. Let's play the kerfuffle. Hold on.
Oh, the man.
Let me make sure the audio is on the other side.
Have a tantrum.
Yeah. Let's see the kerfuffle. Hold on.
To deal with at the courthouse today. And I'm not dealing with this ever again. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, you're not?
To you are an accused. You sent a video of you, Lindsay Gattani, to her, and you admitted to it in text.
He did.
Fuck you. Get to the back of the line. Do not touch property that does not belong to you. You may leave the line if you want to go to the bathroom. You may leave the line if you want to go get something to eat. You may not touch stuff that does not belong to you. You fucking accused. Get out of my fucking line.
You see
what? Everything he said is true. Everything Grant said is true.
All right. Again, this is in front of like 7 or 8 people. That's the kind of thing that you say to a person when you know that they're out on bail.
What?
That's the kind of thing that you say to a person when you know that they're out on bail.
Is he all right?
Right?
I think he's been researching JLR.
Making shit up.
Hi, Katie. No, they didn't make shit up. That's 100% true, and there's evidence. So that's see how he tries to like. Oh, make it. No, he didn't make shit up.
She sent a video of you, Lindsay Gattani, to Lindsay and admitted that she was intoxicated and incapable of consent when you get out of my line. Fucking punk. No one wants you here. And it's going to be like this every minute of every day until Judge Canoni or someone bans you from this fucking court.
I mean, he's right.
So Let's see. I got another one here.
No, do
There's
ya?
A few of these. I mean, there's,
Oh,
it
I
was like
bet.
this the whole morning.
Let me bet you're going to deny everything.
We're not
Deny,
married. She was
deny.
here ahead of you, and I stood for her. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. Fucking accused. You want me to tell them about the text messages and the video you sent of you, Lindsay?
And he
Fucking
did.
accused. Get out of my fucking line. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Again, that's the kind of shit you say when you know the person you're saying that to is out on bail and they can't afford.
Oh, is
to
this just going to
fucking,
play over
you
and
know.
over?
Yeah, it's just a short little
I mean,
one.
that's the kind of
Oh,
shit
okay.
you
All
say.
right. Hold on.
Oh my God, this is
But you gotta
brilliant,
be an adult.
Kodo.
You gotta
Good
be an
job.
adult about it. You're like, well, I'll let him embarrass himself. Like he's making a fool of himself.
No, he made a fool
Now
out of
this
you.
guy's got a press pass.
Yep.
He doesn't work for anyone. He has no
Doesn't have
job.
to.
He lives with his mother, who is Wendy.
See how he
He
has to
calls
low
it my
blow for
line.
what?
He literally
Okay,
called it
but
my
doesn't
line.
Turtle Boy live with
That
his
this is
mom?
his
And
area.
His parents, right?
And he
doesn't
held,
have a
like,
job
you see there, he
either.
held the seat
Nope.
for the Boston Herald, who didn't ask for the seat to be held. He
Doesn't
did
matter,
that
you can do
specifically
it.
so that they could say when he gets there, they could cut me, right? Unfortunately,
Yes.
I was the 11th or 12th person, not person there, but in line. Like there's seat savers.
Yep. not
Gretchen
allowed.
Voss, who doesn't work for anyone, has no job.
Yes, she does. She works for
doesn't
Boston Magazine.
isn't writing a story on this, is literally just a spectator.
She's not a
That's it.
spectator.
Doesn't bring a notebook with
She
her,
doesn't have to.
doesn't bring a phone, doesn't bring anything.
Of course she
Doesn't
brings a
write
phone.
about this. She's literally just taking up a spot in court.
Nope. Wrong, false.
And,
My
and
God,
this
doesn't
is,
he sound like the rest of them? Yo,
that's
he
just-
sounds like
You
Betty.
may
and
leave the
Jim
line
Morrison,
to the
and
bathroom.
all of
You may
them.
So what he's saying here is completely utterly false. Gretchen Voss works for Boston Magazine. He just mad because the article she wrote on him he didn't love.
Right. Oh, girl,
And
listen, we got these same kind of creeps over on our side of the street too. I mean, this
yeah.
could fall out of Betty's mouth. This could fall out of JLR's mouth, Dolly's mouth. There's any number of their mouths that the same shit can fall right out of. It's so funny.
Like for me, like for him to sit there and be like, Gretchen Voss doesn't have a job. You don't have a job, bro. Like, I mean, who, again, this is the projection of throwing stones. Like, and he has to go low because there's nothing else he can say. Notice how he doesn't deny any of the other stuff. He just goes straight for going to Grant. Those text messages and videos exist and he did it and there's evidence. Like the cops have it. It was extracted from the phone, from her phone. Why? Because he magically said he threw his phone in a river and that one time didn't magically bring it to court, even though he brings it every other time. Interesting, ain't it? Coming out of the mouth of someone who said they should just hand it over, right? Everybody else should just hand their phones over, right? Why shouldn't he? Like, I mean, come on, dude. Like ridiculous. Like, I mean, come on. I know why Grant's so mad. Grant is so mad because Lindsay is his friend, and I can't blame him because I'm that mad. Like, I'm that mad when I know this vile human being has done what he has done to a friend of mine that I care for dearly. And Grant is just as mad. And that's why. Imagine if it was your close friend that this vile creature did this stuff to and then sat there and denied it when he knows damn well it's going to come out in trial. It's all about one more day, one more minute, one more hour, one more donation. Like that's all it is for him. One more minute, one more day, one more follower.
He fits in with every last one of those.
It's sick. I mean,
yo,
I'm guessing
line to go get food. You may be an accused who admitted to their crime and sent a video of it to their victim, Lindsay Catani.
And he did.
You may do that. We may allow Matt Johnson or whoever the fuck to go to the bathroom or go get food. Okay. Fuck off.
So who put Boston 25's thing in?
Whoever the fuck worked for
Doesn't
Ted
matter
Daniel
who
and
put
was
it
here
there.
last night.
Okay.
You weren't here, were you? Were you here when Matt Johnson put that down? No. Were you here when he
Nobody
took a
seems
video?
to be here.
No,
Matt Johnson.
because people work shifts. Get someone to fucking work
Well,
for
who's
you.
working the shift right now from WBZ? I don't see.
They're over there, you fucking moron.
Okay. Well, what about
Wherever the fuck they went.
Okay.
You need to
And what he doesn't understand is just because they're allowed to put space savers. So if they got up to go to the bathroom, get something to eat, like They don't have to be standing there, Aiden. They got there early to put the space saver there specifically so you couldn't be there. It's that simple. Nobody likes you. Okay, so there's that.
Understand you control nothing here. You are at the whims of your colleagues who outvote and outnumber you.
Was there really a vote? Was there a
It's
vote?
not a vote, you moron. We're telling you with our eyes that
It's
you
me.
are to respect the line.
Is that true? Is there a we here?
Yeah, there's a we.
Is there a vote
Everybody but
that took
you.
place or something?
It's not a democracy, you moron.
Well, that's what voting usually is.
Right, it is a collective consensus that you may leave the line to go to the bathroom.
People get here and they put chairs because they're doing camera shots and they got to come back.
Yep.
So it's kind of understood that if you have a chair here,
Okay.
So it's kind of understood that that's how this works. So this guy is not a reporter.
How do you know?
He tells me he's being paid $80 an hour.
Yes, because the news stations pay people to sit in their space in line so they don't have to do it all night, which they are allowed to do, sir. So when Cry Me a River, get over
I'd
it.
go be a seat filler for
IW
$80 an hour.
So would I, bro. Sign.
I mean,
where do you sign me the fuck
But
up? I'll go
sign
right
me
now.
up. I'll warm your chair for you.
I'll
I
go right
mean, like,
now.
I
It's
mean,
your- give me Mary Lou's on tap, and I'll do it all night long. I'll sign me up. $80 an hour, dude. I'd be sitting in that chair since right now.
Waiting on Angels. We don't know what happened. We know that what we were told was she had an accident and she's okay.
Yeah.
And they'll update us when there's more information. That's what we know.
Yep. So as soon as we get anything, I promise you guys,
But
Wait.
she's okay. She is.
yeah, she's okay. Yep. And yes, they do runs. They do have each other's backs. And I mean, the man has been denied a press pass like 15 times or something ridiculous. Like whoever gave him one, it was like a favor to like his attorney or something. And like,
Well,
that's
hell,
being-
if all you needed to do was get a hold of Betty, she could have made him one off her 1992 printer.
well, that's being looked at on how exactly that happened because he's been denied numerous times because the stuff he writes is not factual. It doesn't follow any journalistic ethics. And so, yeah, snacks, a power source, and Wi-Fi. I could sit there all night too. Like, give me Mary Lou's on tap, and we're good. Like, mine's empty now, but like, I would love to have another coffee right now, even though it's 2:00. Like, sign me the hell up. All right, hold on. Let me play the rest of this because I want to see what else he whines about. Oh, he denies everything in the end and tries to immobilize Karen to spam the call. Of course he does. Of course he does. Begging people to go sit in line for him and sleep there. Oh, I can't. Like the amount of it's gross. And people will do it. That's how sad it is. Like, yeah, of course he wants to be there. I hope the Judge Canoni says, you know what? No, you have 19 felony indictments for intimidating some of these very witnesses. You're not allowed in this courtroom. Sorry, bub. Like, I mean, I don't see her allowing him in there for any reason. So sitting in front of the very witnesses you tried to make them change their testimony, you're going to let him sit right there and glare at them? I highly doubt that.
HDH to sit in a chair and hold it for the WHDH reporter that's going to go inside the courtroom.
Correct.
So that reporter can sleep in or whatever. Right. I'm there at 5:45 in the morning.
Nope.
This is
too late.
TV. And she's not going to go in the courtroom either. Tim is. And then this guy is from NBC 10. He is there to hold Sue O'Connell's place in line.
you got it.
So you can just come here at 7:00 and put
You
a
can
chair
come
here
here
and
at
leave.
8 p.m. the night before.
I don't know. I get here at 4 a.m.
Okay.
and I'm paid by Channel 7.
Oh,
$80 an hour.
Don't
$80
even,
an hour.
Okay, yeah.
don't even engage with him.
No, so, all right, so, because I'm new to this, so.
No, you're not.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Somebody's put the chair. Like, if I just happen to oversleep and come down, I don't have a right. If Curtis puts his chair here, I don't say, well,
We don't
Curtis,
cut.
I've been here every day at 4, but I overslept today. Sorry.
So all you have to do is just come here at 7 night before, put your chair first, and you
You
go
have to
back
stay
home.
here.
You have to stay here.
They have crews that are
Well, who
here.
was staying here from Boston 25 News?
Oh, there was like 6 people. here.
Was there 6 people from Boston 25 News here? Is that true?
Well, they were out doing
They're
live
live
shots
shots
over
all fucking night. You are a fucking moron.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, who are you to question anyone?
You're
though?
really sleepy, okay.
You are so dumb. It's not even funny. You're not getting in. Just give up.
Right? Just give up. Look at how mad he is. Look at his
You're
face.
certainly not
He's
stealing
defeated.
someone's spot because you didn't get
Defeated.
here in time.
Yeah,
I count,
no, you're not.
by my count, I'm number 10.
No, you're actually 11 or 12.
Well, I count 10.
Well, you're wrong.
All right. So,
Look at how
that
defeated he is.
is what I had to deal with this morning. And I'm
Oh no, not that.
doing the math when I'm there, and I'm like, well, looks like I'm 11th or whatever. So Grant Smithelis, you guys just saw what you heard in that. Like what he's saying about and stuff like that is such a slap in the face to actual victims.
No,
Again,
no, it
this
isn't.
is the fake victim again.
She's
Like,
not fake.
the assault and battery
You're the
thing,
fake
that
victim.
didn't work. Now she's making up whatever rumor about this
Ma-
too. It's
making-
just these people are sick.
Aiden, you admitted
They're
to
sick.
it, Aiden. Sorry to tell
They're
you.
mentally deranged.
Yeah,
And,
they are.
you know,
I can't.
if you guys would like,
Everyone
right,
else is.
I'd like to attend this hearing. So first thing
I just want to point out real quick that his pupils are in his pocket and he's peanut butter and jam sandwiched right now. Anybody else notice this besides me being an addict? Like, dude's pupils are in his friggin' back pocket. He didn't bring them with him because he's peanut butter and jam sandwich.
I did today was I emailed, and I'm going to give you her email, right? If anybody else wants to email her to
Nope.
complain about this. If you do
Nope.
not, that guy right there should not be the Boston Globe. Forget about me. The Boston Globe and the Boston Herald, as well as me,
Oh, Kodo.
did not get in.
I love it.
We were not one of the first 10 in because that guy got in. He's not a reporter. He doesn't
He
work
is.
for anyone. He's mentally
He is.
unbalanced.
You're mentally unbalanced. sir.
He
Very.
smells like shit. He's a human troll.
Did he just call someone else a human troll?
He did.
Did he just call someone like the lack of fucking self-awareness in this man? And again, let's point out this right here. Sir, you left your pupils at home, sir? They're gone? Do you maybe want to like sniff out that opiate that you took earlier and like take it out of your nose and regain your pupils? Like,
Hey, honey, I'm just going to give a word of caution. That kind of stuff. Got to be careful when saying those kinds of things. They like to get fucking gross around here.
well,
just-
you know
I just
what,
said
dude?
heads
When it's
up.
the truth, it's the truth. And
Okay, well, I don't know if it's the truth. So those are her thoughts. I'm just over here along for the ride.
yeah, she's just along for the ride. Those are my thoughts. Those are my goddamn opinions because I was an addict, so I know what it looks like. And also, there's a reason he was in the medical wing detoxing from multiple things. So there's that.
Well, I'm just not looking to
And
fight.
he just
with
makes
this
shit
one.
up.
Huh?
I'm just not looking to fight with this one.
He got in. Gretchen Voss got in. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't work for anyone.
Gretchen Voss works for Boston Magazine, everyone, just so we're clear here. She does have a job. She works for Boston Magazine.
She not writing a story on this, isn't taking notes at all. So the woman in charge of this, her name is Jennifer Donahue. And I'm going to put her email in the comments if anyone wants to email her
In case any of you want to tattle.
and say that this
If
guy,
you wanna tattle.
you saw what you saw, like that guy should not be allowed
Oh, Kodo,
inside
I
the
love
press
you.
box. Should not be allowed anywhere.
Oh, but you should.
Complain about him.
Come on. Complain about it. Okay.
Jennifer.Donahue at judd.state.ma.
You guys already tried that. Didn't
She's
work.
The one who
Sorry.
approves press passes. That guy, BS, absolutely be polite in the email.
Right.
Be polite in the email. That guy should not be given there's only 10 press passes given out. That guy should not be getting in over reporters from the Boston Globe and the Boston Herald.
Oh, okay.
Should not be happening.
But you should.
Oh,
It's
you
a
don't
joke.
work for either one of those,
That
dude.
guy gets to
Right.
be allowed in.
You shouldn't be.
He is trolling.
allowed
He's got
anywhere. You're
stickers all over his computer,
what?
which are political in nature.
they're not political. They're
You're not allowed to have demonstrations. Why does he have those on his computer?
because he can. That's why. Because it's
I did send the
freedom of
videos in.
speech.
I sent all.
Just want to point out that everybody, he doesn't like freedom of speech if it's not him. He only likes it if it's him.
Maybe that
the
guy with
videos
the
in.
stickers on his laptop. Maybe
It's
he's
Grant. Grant
okay,
has the stickers
maybe
of like
Grant's a
weed.
sticker adhesive tester in his off time, and he's
Right.
just testing out the durability of the stickers and the adhesive for the maker of the sticker. Have you ever
It's his
thought about
personal
that?
laptop. Yeah, it's also his personal laptop. You can't tell him what he can have is on his personal laptop for stickers, bro. Like, come on. Stop it. Again, when you're screaming from the rooftops that the First Amendment, but you don't like anybody else's First Amendment, stop it.
Have you checked to see if we're back in court yet?
Hold on, let me look.
And I'm going to probably do a little story on it. Again, I don't
Nope.
want to give this guy too much attention, but
And still,
I wrote her an email today. And I said the
of course
following.
you
Let's see.
did. Of
Jennifer, I attempted to attend the Karen Reed trial today, but was forced to leave after a man named Grant Smith Ellis relentlessly harassed me.
Are you serious?
Attached are several videos of Grant loudly slandering me in front of others.
Okay, hold on. Did he just say relentlessly harassed him? So you can go to kids' sports games.
Right.
And you can call people murderers for 2 years that are witnesses in a case. And that's not relentlessly harassing them, even though you've been charged with however many counts of witness intimidation of these people. And he has not. And that's relentlessly harassing. What? Also, in order for it to be slander, Aiden, it has to actually not be true. And considering there's video and evidence that the police have, it doesn't. Let me just tell you real quick. It's not slander.
Other reporters by calling me a quote, telling me to get the fuck out of my line, which doesn't belong to him, and telling me to never come back.
Belongs to the press.
No one should be subject to this while trying to do their job.
Oh, please.
Grant intentionally saved seats for reporters from the Globe and the Herald so that they could cut the line in front of me when I got there. I arrived at the courthouse at 5:45 a.m. There were 6 others there.
Yep.
So I was the 7th person and should have been let in. However, it appears that Boston 25 News, WBZ, Court TV, NBC 10, WHDH, WCVB, and Gretchen Voss had seat savers for them. Some of the seats were empty with signs. The man from WHDH said he was being paid $80 an hour to be there. I would ask that a uniform system be set up so that people are not allowed to save seats for others. It should be first come, first serve. Please let me know what we can.
They have. It's been going on since the very beginning of the trial. He's just whining because he wasn't let in.
Well, and on top of that, everybody that he listed off are legitimate news organizations. Again, I liken this back to the people over on the side of the streets I come from. This is a BHB, a JLR, a Dolly. I could see every last one of them writing these letters and emailing them off. We've got one. That Betty attends her county commissioner meeting every Tuesday. I mean, same. Oh my God. Is anybody else being like, whoa?
It's employing the mob is what you're trying to do. Employ a mob to do your dirty work. Oh man. It's just, I mean, you're literally sitting there whining because you didn't get in. Like, it's, come on, bro. Like, come the hell on with it. You don't get to just magically come in and decide that everything's going to be changed because you don't like the way it works. The amount of narcissism it takes to sit there and try to act like it should all be changed because you don't like it. That's the way it's been running since the trial started, my dude. It isn't going to magically change because you say so. And
it sounds like they've had this system and they've used it at other hearings. It's very well. I mean, look, he's the one person. There were 25 people there from W Boston, whatever he said it was, WBH.
WBZ, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, whatever that is. There were 25 people from that, or NBC Boston, that were there. And I mean, we saw another, 7 or 8 just sitting there. And that means that's like 30 plus people. And not one of them's had a problem. But this fool comes up and there's nothing but now it's a soup sandwich. And we're getting people to send 50 plus emails to this person that
this lady
probably has in the judicial system or in the courthouse that probably has her hands full doing her job.
Well, you're also wasting her time because even if they did try to change the way it worked now, it would look like the optics of that would look like they're pandering or giving him special treatment. And so I highly doubt that's going to happen because then you're giving this man special treatment, the man who has been witness intimidating
case
the
against
actual witnesses that are going to be in this trial. Like, it's improper for him to even be there to begin with. And if I was Judge Cannoni, he would not be allowed in my courtroom. I don't want you sitting there glaring at my witnesses, trying to make them change their testimony, like what you've already been trying to do. So they wanted the smaller courtroom. It's Karen Reed's lawyers who wanted it because they thought they were what they thought they were going to do is get it out of the district. They wanted it out of Norfolk County. And that didn't work because they said, oh, we'll give you the smaller courtroom then. And it backfired on them. And that's their own fault, you know? So there's only 10 seats. It's that simple. Like, you're just mad that you're not in there. And unfortunately, if I was the judge, even if you had a press pass, I wouldn't let you in because of what you're charged with and that the witnesses are there. I'm sorry. If I was the judge, it would be improper for me to allow you there. I wouldn't allow you there. Like, all he wants is to get in there and know who the jury is so he can dox and harass them and then have his mob dox and harass them. That's all he wants. Like, you know, come on, dude. Like, you go after everybody for the same things that you do. It's called being a hypocrite, bro. Like, being a hypocrite. You can't say that you can do it, but nobody else can. And then when you don't like it, it's, why can you have stickers? I want to have my First Amendment. It's my First Amendment right to go to people's kids' games and walk up to their doors and call them murderers. That's my First Amendment right. But you can't tell me true things about me in front of other people because it's embarrassing. So I'm going to call it slander. No, not the way it works, my dude. Not in real life. Like, Norfolk. Sorry, I say it weird. Norfolk. That's how I say it. Norfolk. I grew up in Norfolk County. I'm from Norfolk County originally. Well, that's the thing. He wants to see the jury. It's literally that simple. Like, so he can do his thing. Yeah, intimidate them. Exactly. It's gross. It's literally gross. Like, and then he wants to whine and complain because, you know, it can't happen. We're still seeing the fan, just so everybody's aware. We are not back in session yet. Just a fan. Although we should. It's after 2. I don't know what. Oh.
Do to address this. So that's
nothing
for
for
now.
you, sir.
It should be changed.
It's not going to be.
Yeah, and Gretchen Voss is on the witness list. So that's the system for now. So we got to play in it. So what I need are volunteers. If this is how it's going to go, court tomorrow ends at 2:00. I need somebody to set up a chair there.
And you have to stay there, dum-dum. No, you have
Turtle
to stay
Boy
there.
Daily News.
You got to stay there.
And then just
Dum-dum.
sit there. We'll do shifts.
Of course.
I don't know if
we
you guys want to get it going in the justice group. Maybe do that. Start coordinating that. Just a couple hours each
This is
person.
a terms of
Just sit
service
there.
violation. You're not allowed to use YouTube's platform to do a real life call to action, and you're not allowed to use YouTube's platform to do real world harassment, any of that. So that's a TOS violation.
But why hasn't YouTube taken his channel down for that then? Because he's done that a billion times.
Because you've got to report it and do it the right way.
Oh, people
'cause
do. People do.
You got to go
People
through
do.
Twitter, and you got to go through Team YouTube, and you got to go through creator support and the streaming service that they use.
Okay. All right. All right. Well,
It takes about 15 of your closest friends, and y'all have to put the exact right verbiage in, and it's like it's a coordinated effort. I mean, but you don't publicly call for the call to action.
No.
But the bigger thing is that he's using the platform to call for a real world movement.
Oh, yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
not allowed to use YouTube's platform for that. That's a form of it's a form of cyber harassment.
bullying.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and you're not allowed to do that. So that in and of itself is one of those offenses that if it got looked upon by the right set of eyes, he could be in a world of mess.
No, he doesn't seem to care about that. I mean, we're talking 19 felony indictments and counting.
I know he doesn't think that rules apply to him, from what I understand.
No, they only
That's why I
apply
think this
to
little piece of
everyone
legislation
else
goes out
but
there.
him. See, so this is a perfect example. The man calls people like me who's never, ever, and it's a coffee, Katie. It's a coffee. Mary Lou's is a coffee place. Never, ever been convicted of a crime a day in my life. Even when I was an addict over 16 years ago, I have never been convicted of any of the crimes. Everything on my record has been dismissed. But he runs around calling people who have dismissed records criminals while holding 19 felony indictments. I've never been indicted, by the way, either. So, I mean, it's just like the rules do not apply to him. They apply to everybody else. And let's criticize everyone else about everything else except himself. We're coming back, I think. Hold on.
Now, he just said the court ends at 2 today.
It does not end at 2 today. It's a full day today.
So is this the day before this is?
No, I think this was today that he did it. So.
Thank you. Maybe seated. Close back.
All right, could we have Ms. Trayers, please?
Norfolk is just the county. It's the county. I think there might be actually a Norfolk Bass, but it's just a county. Norfolk is a county. It's lots of cities and towns in Norfolk County.
If you mind, please step up and sit right down. And again, you've been previously sworn.
All right, Ms. Giannetti.
Thank you, Ron. Good afternoon again, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
I believe you testified that you knew John O'Keefe as a prior customer in the bar, correct?
Correct.
And that particular night, John appeared to be in a good mood. Would you agree?
Yes.
In fact, John is a pretty good tipper.
I wouldn't really know.
But with regard to that particular night, there was one receipt that was introduced in Exhibit 54. You probably didn't take a close look at it.
No.
But if I suggested to you that there was a receipt for a total of $16.58 worth of drinks, and John put a tip down of $10, that'd be a pretty good tip, right? And do you need to see the receipt to confirm that, or?
No.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And that night, John's demeanor seemed fine. Would you agree?
Yes.
You didn't notice John buying drinks for a woman that night, did you?
No.
And with regard to your, sort of scanning the people that were there within that group, one of your duties as a bartender is to make sure that nobody's overserved, right?
Correct.
And so, while you don't watch every movement all the time, you do look for signs that somebody might be overserved, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the group that came in, the receipts for which you were shown today, nobody really seemed highly intoxicated to you, correct?
No.
I may just have a moment.
Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Treyers, thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I approach council table to deliver this exhibit back?
Yes, I was actually just looking for it, so yes,
Oh,
please,
that's right
thank
here.
you.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, thanks. All right, your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor, the Commonwealth will call Mr. Nicholas Kolokeithis to the stand.
Okay.
Oh, what with the last name? Yeah, was he good tipper? No further questions. They're just trying to basically say that Karen wasn't too drunk that she saw. But again, alcohol can hit you after you friggin' stand up and leave. Like, we all know that. May not hit you right away.
Tori.
Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give to the court and jury in the case now hearing true, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
It's Nicholas Kolokeithis, Kolokeithas,
And where do you live, sir?
Canton,
And how long have you lived in Canton?
21 years.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Canton?
My wife and 2 children,
What is your wife's name?
Karina,
And your 2 children, how old are
18 and 16.
they? Are they both girls?
Yes,
And do you work, sir?
yes, I do.
What do you do?
I'm an attorney,
And how long have you been practicing as an
27 years.
Awesome.
attorney? And does your wife work?
Yes, she does.
And what does she do?
She's a pharmacist.
Now, if I could turn your attention to the evening of January 28th, 2022.
Oh, what the front? Like, what the hell, YouTube?
Plans and sort of what did you do that evening?
Sure. My older daughter was on the Canton High basketball team. So we were planning to go, I was planning to go to the basketball game, and I did go to the basketball game, yes.
And where was the basketball game, do you recall?
Canton High School.
And your daughter at that point, which team did she play for?
She was coming off an injury, and she was playing for both the JV and the varsity team.
So she was sort of swinging between JV and varsity.
Correct.
And so what time were each of the games at?
God, I think the JV was around 5 or so, and the varsity 6:30, 6:45.
And do you recall who they were playing?
Foxborough High.
And when you arrived to the game, as far as where is it that you typically sit when you go to a basketball game in Canada?
There was a group of 5 parents or so, including us. We generally sat together most of the games.
And who, if anyone else, was among those parents that you sat with?
Specifically,
Yes.
names, the McCabe's, the Fitzgerald's, Galleries, and Tom Beatty.
And these are people you know as sort of parents of other children that are on the team.
Yes.
And as far as that particular, is that who you sat with on this occasion, if you recall?
I believe so.
And your wife, did she come to one or both games?
She came to the second game, the varsity game.
And about what time did that game get over?
The varsity game?
Yes.
It went into overtime. It was a back and forth game. Later than usual. I don't remember the exact time.
1.
We lost. Foxborough won.
Now, following that, following the basketball game, where did you go from
As usual, we waited for our players to come out, our daughters to come out. And they're the same group of parents were deciding if we should continue, go out somewhere, get something to eat. I was hungry. Anybody who knows me doesn't get between me and my food, so I was very hungry, so wanted to get something to eat.
And where did you decide to go?
Went to the waterfall.
Is that somewhere that you had been before?
Yes.
Now, with regard to the waterfall, as far as the other parents were concerned, what, if any, other parents from the ones that you described, as far as the ones you sit with at the game, who, if anyone else went?
Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
And how was that was that communicated to you as far as in person, via text, or phone, or how did you come to the waterfall?
It was via text.
And so you get a text from who specifically directing you to sort of go to the waterfall?
So it was a group text amongst the 5 sets of families, and different ideas were bantered about in the group text, and I decided to go to Waterfall.
And when you get to the waterfall, being familiar with the establishment, where is it that you parked in reference to the waterfall?
I parked behind Washington Street. There's a small little parking lot. Waterfall shares a parking lot with other establishments, and I believe condos, so I parked in the back.
And about what time did you get there?
I got there right around 9-ish, a little bit before 9 o'clock.
And who, if anyone else from that group of parents besides yourself and the McCabe's went to the waterfall that night?
So walked in, it was a large table, probably about 8 to 10 feet long. In addition to Jen and Matt McCabe, there was Jen's sister, Nicole Albert, her husband, Brian Albert, Brian's brother, Chris Albert, and his wife, Julie. And there were others that I was just introduced to for the first time. So I don't remember their name. I don't recall their names, but there were others at the table as well.
And so as far as the other sort of basketball parents, were any of them there as well, beyond the McCabe's?
Beyond the McCabe's, no.
And as far as the other people who weren't, didn't have the last name McCabe, how did you know any of those people? Or did you know any of those people?
At the waterfall?
Yes.
I had met Nicole, Brian, Chris, and Julie prior, I think other basketball games, other events. So I knew them through the McCabe's, through Jen.
And the McCabe's had a daughter on the basketball team as well.
They had one of their daughters on the team at the time, yes.
And when it came to the McCabe's, there's Mr. and Mrs. What are their names?
Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
How long have you known Jennifer and Matt?
About 9 or 10 years ago, we met.
And at some point during the course of the evening, did your wife join you at the waterfall as well?
She did.
Fair to say you took separate cars, is that correct?
We did, yes.
And about how long after you arrived did your wife join you?
want to say it was about a half hour or so. So around 9:30 she arrived.
Now, with reference to this table that you were referencing, about 8 to 10 feet long, is that correct?
Correct.
And was this a high top, low top? What kind of table is
It was a high top table towards the bar end of Waterfall. I don't know if it was the last table or the second to last table right before you hit the bar.
And as far as the people that you described, the people that you knew or didn't know, where were they sort of situated around the table?
When I first walked in, I saw Matt, since he was the person I was most familiar with, Matt and Jen. Matt was standing towards the right side of the table as you're walking in towards the right side. So I went to the right side of the table.
Is that essentially where you stayed for the balance of most of the night?
Yes.
And your wife, when she arrived, where did she go in reference to?
Initially, she came to me, said hello. I think she picked for my food. And then she gravitated, I believe, towards the left side of the table where more of the women were located.
And at some point following that, was there anyone else that you knew or aware of that came into the bar?
Yes.
And about what time was it?
Shortly before 11 or right around 11.
And who was it?
It was John O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
And these are people that you were familiar with prior to that date?
Yes.
And just to be clear, when we're talking about Karen Reed, do you see Miss Reed in the courtroom today?
I do.
And could you describe this as to where she's seated or an article of clothing she's wearing?
She's seated at the table to my right, second person in from the right.
That's a record reflect identification of the defendant by the witness. Yes. Thank you. Now, how did you know John O'Keefe?
John O'Keefe had adopted his niece and nephew. His niece is the same age as my younger daughter. And they were playing basketball together. They've been friends for years. So I got to know John through my daughter.
Now, as far as Ms. Reed, when was it that you met her? When was it that you became sort of aware?
Sure. I believe it was towards the end of the summer of 2020. I dropped my daughter off at John's place on Meadows. Karen was there. It was the first time I met her. So it was 2020.
And with reference to yourself and your wife as a couple and Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, how often would you sort of see them?
As couples, not too often. I would see John on a weekly basis during the basketball season, sometimes multiple times a week during the basketball season. But as couples, maybe a couple of times we had seen them.
So fair to say most of your interaction with them would be at sort of sporting events or things for the kids.
Yes.
Now, as far as on that evening, obviously you went out, you had something to eat. Did you have anything to drink as well?
I did.
And do you recall sort of what you were drinking that night?
Captain and Coke.
And as far as John O'Keefe, do you recall sort of what he was drinking that night?
Yes.
And what, if anything, do you recall?
Beer.
Is that sort of typical for Mr. O'Keefe?
From the occasions we happen to be out on events like that, yes.
Now, as far as Ms. Reed, what, if anything, did you observe her to be drinking at the waterfall?
She was holding a cup, a glass with a clear liquid.
And what was your understanding of what was in the cup with the clear liquid?
I don't know what was in there, but I don't know if it was water or alcoholic drink. But I don't know for sure.
Now, as far as the sort of general demeanor and atmosphere within the bar that night, how would you describe that?
Generally, it was a fun atmosphere. There was a live band. Everybody was in a good mood. I think people were singing to some of the music, so it was a fun atmosphere.
And specifically, you didn't observe anything as far as arguing or anything between Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, is that correct?
That is correct. I did not.
And you didn't observe anything as far as arguing or anything between anyone at the bar that night, is that correct?
That is correct. I did not.
And as far as Mr. O'Keefe was concerned, do you recall what he was wearing when he was in the bar?
Yes, he had a dark baseball cap, jeans, sneakers, and he had some type of top, a longer sleeve top.
At any point in time, did you observe him to have a winter coat or a jacket or anything like that?
Not that I recall.
As far as his clothing was concerned, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the condition? Were there any tears or anything in his clothing?
No tears, nothing unusual about the clothing.
And as far as Mr. O'Keefe himself, what, if any, injuries did you observe on him at that time that you saw him at the bar?
I didn't observe any injuries.
Now, as far as prior to them coming into the waterfall, do you have any idea sort of where they were coming from?
Yes, I did.
And how did you know?
I knew through Matt McCabe. Matt had said that they were at Waterfall, at CF McCarthy's, and they were heading over. We had the live band, and they were coming over to our place.
As far as the live band was concerned, about how loud was it in the waterfall during that time?
It was fairly loud.
Now, towards the end of the night, what, if any, discussion did you observe or were you a part of as far as sort of anywhere people were going afterward?
Again, we were at this larger, 8, almost 10-foot table, and most of the discussion was happening towards the other side of the table, but there were a couple of places that people were discussing about potentially going.
And what were those couple places people were discussing?
One was one was 2 D&Es, which was across the street next to CF McCarthy's, and the other one was 34 Fairview Road.
And as far as D&Es, are you familiar with that establishment?
Yes, I am.
And what is it and where is it in relation to water?
It's basically a sub shop, pizza shop. It's diagonally across the street from Waterfall.
And what, if any, relationship did the D&E Pizza have to anyone that you observed in the group that night?
Chris Albert, who was with the group, was one of the owners, if not the owner of D&E.
And as far as going to that place afterward, who, if anyone among the group, had sort of mentioned that or was talking about it?
I didn't hear specifically one person. It was just generally coming from the group. So.
Did you hear the defendant at any point talking about going there or wanting to?
I heard from others that she had mentioned about wanting to go there.
Now, you mentioned a couple of different places. What was the other?
34 Fairview Road.
And was it mentioned specifically as far as that address, or how was it referenced?
I believe it was mentioned. Brian Albert, the homeowner, had invited the group back to his house. I can't remember if it was come back to my house or come back to 34 Fairview, but that was his residence.
And so was that sort of an open invitation to the group at the table?
Yes.
And yourself and your wife, did either of you go to Fairview Road that night?
We did not.
And at some point, you left, you recall about what time that you left the waterfall?
It was shortly after 12 o'clock, maybe 12:10 or so.
And when did you leave in reference to sort of the rest of the group?
Sure. Matt and I stayed back a little bit. We helped clean up the table with the bottles and glasses. We spoke to the band briefly, told them how well they played. So we were a little bit later, maybe a couple of minutes later than the rest of the group.
And when you exited, did you know where your wife was?
I did. I knew where she was.
Where was she?
She was parked out front on Washington Street.
And so you were parked in the lot and she was parked on Washington Street? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And when you came outside, what, if anything, did you observe about sort of the weather or what was going on?
It was very cold, and it just started to snow. I don't even think there was a dusting on the ground or barely a dusting on the ground.
And so at that point, could you still sort of see like blacktop on the pavement?
Yes.
When you got to your car, what, if anything, did you have to do to sort of get your car ready to go or clean off the car or anything like that?
I didn't need a scraper or anything. I just turned on my windshield wipers and it cleaned the snow off.
Now, as far as you mentioned that you and Mr. McCabe were sort of the last to leave from the group, do you know what order sort of the rest of the group had left in?
Generally, yes.
And generally, what do you recall?
There was a larger group that left right before us. I believe my wife was part of that group. Jen was in that group, and Karen was in that group.
Mentioned that your wife was sort of gravitated towards the other end of the table where some of the other women were at. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So who was, as far as the women that you're referencing, who was in that group that your wife was conversing with?
I know it was Karen was part of that group, and Jennifer was part of that group as well.
And that'd be Jennifer McCabe, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd just like to publish just a brief portion of Exhibit 53, the surveillance video. Mr. Gilman, if I could have Exhibit 53 on the screen, and specifically if I could have from Channel 3, the second video down. And if you could put that at approximately 10:59 p.m. When it gets to 10:59, if you could just pause. Thank you. So, Mr. Kolokithis, what's up on the screen as Exhibit 53? Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize?
It's the inside of the Waterfall bar.
And before you on that desk, I believe there should be a laser pointer.
Yes.
So if you could just grab that and sort of click the button on top when I ask you to.
Yes.
So with reference to this video, do you see yourself within this video?
Yes, I do.
If you could just draw the jury's attention to sort of where you are in this video.
Black and white shirt.
And from that specific area, sort of where you are, do you recognize anybody else in that sort of general area of the frame?
Yes, I do.
And if you could just draw the jury's attention to who you recognize and where they are.
I believe that's Matt McCabe right there to my right, and John O'Keefe to my left, in front of me to my left.
Now, that area of the table where you indicated your wife was with another group of women further away from you, where would that be if you see?
The numbering is there, so I can't really see, but it was towards this side.
And further down the table, is that where people that you were less familiar with, is that where they were?
Correct. Yes.
Ms. Gilman, you can take it. Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Kolokithis.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Kolokithis, you and I have never actually met.
We have not.
We've never had a conversation.
Have not.
We've certainly never had an interview about this case.
Have not.
So this is our first time visiting about this situation.
Yes.
When did you say you first met Ms. Reed?
I believe it was towards the end of the summer of 2020.
Okay. And that was over at an event at Pete's house?
I don't know if it was John's niece's birthday party or so, but I was dropping my daughter off at John's house.
Okay. That sort of dovetails into my next question. You and your wife and y'all's kids did have some sort of relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, Ms. Reed, and Mr. O'Keefe's niece and nephew.
Yes.
In other words, the kids got along well.
Yes, absolutely. And they still friends.
As the adults, you wanted to make sure that you could facilitate play dates, get-togethers, things of that nature for the children.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, do you remember a situation in which Ms. Reed had arranged a relatively elaborate 13th birthday party for Mr. O'Keefe's niece, a scavenger hunt of some sorts?
Objection.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for this, please.
Well, we have a sidebar. Then we got quite a few sidebars today. I often wonder, like, since I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
Sidebar.
On the sidebars, I'd love to be a fly on the wall to know what they're talking about.
I know.
Right? Like, I would love to know. I mean, sorry, this witness isn't really giving us much other than, like, he knew John, he met Karen in the summer of 2020. She was drinking clear liquid in a
Well,
glass.
but also it all goes to credibility of the, what went on
Right.
that night. It's another
Right.
person that, albeit small, it just goes to the credibility of the things that happened that night.
Oh, yeah. I was just hoping for some more juicy stuff, you know? Like, after everybody else left, he might have been the only one left. Oh, I think I'm coming back.
He's an
I was
attorney.
waiting
He's
for
not
some-
gonna have any juicy stuff.
I know. When he said attorney, I was like,
Yes.
With regard to the last question I asked, you recall an event in which Ms. Reed had organized a relatively elaborate 13th birthday party for Mr. O'Keefe's niece, correct?
Yes.
And one of your children was actually invited to that.
Yes.
Did you actually go and accompany your child at the 13th birthday party?
I did not.
Did your wife?
I don't know. She generally keeps a social calendar for the kids, but I don't know if she did.
So it could have been a situation, Mr. Kolakithis, in which you just dropped the child off and
Yes, correct.
enjoyed the birthday party.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. But you had no problems or no qualms with Miss Reed, Mr. O'Keefe being caretakers over your children.
Absolutely not.
You said that you didn't socialize as couples all that often, but there were times in which you did socialize with them.
Yes.
About how many times would you say?
A handful of times, maybe,
Okay, 5 or 6
if that,
over the course of how long?
since 2020 to 2022, 2 years, less than 2 years.
Focusing your attention more toward the end of that time period that you just mentioned, toward 2022, when you socialized with Miss Reed and Mr. O'Keefe, did you ever see any sort of tension between the two of them?
Not at all.
Did they seem like a normal and loving couple?
Absolutely.
They seemed like they were affectionate and normally affectionate with one another?
Absolutely.
Did you ever have any question about the nature of their relationship, any toxicity in their relationship or any overt indicators that they weren't getting along?
Not to my knowledge, not at all.
Matter of fact, you spent more time with Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
Anybody else in the foursome, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, other than my wife, I mean, force of.
That's a good catch. You're going to pay for that later. Fair enough.
I get brownie points for that, right?
Let me see if I can restate it a little bit better. Between Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed, you spent more time with Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
Fair enough.
True Religion commercial. Take one.
Boss chick, no, you need a boss chick. Real gon' pay what it costs quick. Long nails, only get the top tip. That ain't that. Bro, that's icy on my lips. I ain't going nowhere.
Damn, Court TV's like popping the ads.
The late night hours of January 28th.
Like in the middle of
going into the
nowhere,
early
too.
Morning hours of January 29th, if I could.
They got to get their money. They got to get their pennies somehow.
Did you get to the waterfall before Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed got there?
Yes, I did.
How long before?
So I got there around 9 and they got there shortly before 11. So 2 hours.
While at the waterfall, did you have an opportunity to speak with Ms. Reed or Mr. O'Keefe just in normal conversation?
Yes, I did.
You engaged both of them, as a matter of fact, didn't you?
Yes.
Was there a time in which Ms. Reed was actually singing John's praises that night?
Yes, I did.
What a great dad he was.
Yep.
Objection, move to strike.
I'm going to strike that. Next question.
At any point, did you have an opportunity to hear Mr. O'Keefe talk about Ms. Reed and the nature of their relationship or any events surrounding their relationship?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
I had heard that they were planning vacations in the future.
Were you aware of the time frame of those vacations in the future? Next week, next month, next year?
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch.
Welp, sidebar again. Like, Jesus.
Sidebar.
Sidebar. It's getting a little crazy with these damn sidebars. What is on my computer screen? It's like right on my face.
Oh, she looks a little sad today.
I don't know, but a lot of times I'll look over and I'll notice she does a lot of like this or this or this or this. And then she'll like sit back up. And then maybe like a minute or two later, she'll go back like this or like this. She does a lot of like bored sort of looks, because I mean, someone doing this isn't like intently listening. You know what I mean? Like
They might be. I mean, I do that. I put a chin on my. I find myself holding my head when I'm like, if I get really good into a book. Oh yeah,
a book, yeah. But if I'm like watching TV and I'm intently watching TV, I feel like I'd more apt to, like, if I'm using my hands, more apt to sort of have it lightly under my chin than being like leaning fully like this. Or
There was nothing eventful at the bar while you were at the bar with Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed that comes to mind in terms of any kind of tension or fight that night.
Tension or fight? Absolutely not.
No argument that was audible to you.
Absolutely not.
You didn't see any body language between the two of them that would suggest an argument or a fight or tension.
In fact, I noticed the opposite.
Describe that.
They were affectionate toward each other, loving toward each other, and to the point where my wife even made a comment, why are you not like that with me?
Uh-oh.
You had something to live up to.
Yes. That's why I needed the brownie points earlier.
Trouble.
I want to shift gears for a second and pinpoint another time at the bar. Was there a time at the bar where you noticed any individuals with their fists up and engaged in some sort of conduct that looks a little like this?
No, I didn't observe that.
You don't recall that?
No,
Sparring with one another?
not that I saw.
Wrestling?
Why are we frozen? Does
Not
anybody
that I
else
saw.
notice this? Why is his face frozen? Hold on. I don't know what's happening here.
I'd like, if I could, Mr. Cole.
What's happening? Hold on. What is happening right now? Obnoxious. Is it just me, or is it like Core TV? What's happening here? Uh-oh. Hold on, guys. Let me try to get it on a... Go back to it. I don't know what just happened, so I'm just going to like restart the Core TV thing. Where it is. Back it up a little tiny bit, but that... His face was like
Crap, I
frozen.
was beginning to wonder if I was the bad omen today, because like that's the same thing that happened when Heels had her
Right.
issue. Like, are you okay?
It just froze. Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm at home, so
Okay.
I don't know what just happened. And now we got commercials. Like, come on, I don't want commercials. It's giving me a damn like Lysol commercial. I don't want the Lysol commercial. All right, hold on.
That's okay.
Oh crap. Hold on. Get this first. Let's get this on the freaking screen, and then I can back it up a teeny smidgen. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just freaking froze out of nowhere. His face wasn't moving. His lips weren't moving, but I heard talking. So, okay. Can I get this?
Have an understanding of who we're looking at.
All right, hold on. Let me back it up a little bit.
Okay. That's me in the white and blue.
Oh my God, we got rain and snow and gross and cold
Ugh.
today.
I don't want it. Okay, this is when they did the sidebar.
Shit, maybe their stream got snipped.
No. It's the court TV thing, but I'm just trying to like. Oh. It was court TV, so I don't know. It won't let me sort of back it up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wonder if maybe somebody sabotaged the court TV truck outside of the courthouse.
The individuals at the top.
Yeah, it was them. It
Can
wasn't
you
even me. I
name,
thought it was me.
The
It
folks
wasn't.
that we're seeing and
Okay,
describe what
whatever.
they're wearing for the jurors, so we have an understanding of who we're looking at.
Okay. That's me in the white and black. That's Matt to my right. A little hard of seeing, but I think that's John right there.
Terrible video.
And I thought I saw Karen earlier right in this area while you were displaying the video.
And what about the two gentlemen with their backs to us?
I know I met them that evening, but I can't tell from behind like this.
Understood. With the court's permission, could we just go ahead and play this through? I'd like to run it through to about the runtime of 11:08, but I'll ask that the video be paused momentarily.
11:08, so just one more second.
Runtime, sorry. Runtime 11:08, so probably about 4 minutes.
Okay.
3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Oh, we like my sparkles. I like my
Yeah.
sparkles too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bingo, Julie.
Pause it. Having seen this run forward just a little bit, do you see an individual here with long hair?
So
It's
you're
hard for me to
squinting. Are you having difficulty?
Yes,
seeing
I
this?
am having difficulty. Could you blow it up a bit or
I don't think so.
They're so far away. How do you
Technology's
expect
good,
them?
But I'm getting a shake of the head.
my eyes are not good. I can tell you that.
Let's just go ahead and play it forward with the court's permission.
All right, but if you can't see it, I don't want you to guess.
So this, are you talking right here?
Yes.
That looks like Karen.
Okay. May we play it forward, Your Honor?
Yes.
Pause it. I ask you to draw your attention to the two gentlemen in the foreground, right there. Can you describe what they're doing?
It looks like they're in a stance that you described earlier with fists up.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Okay, so I'm sustaining that objection, but come on up.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm trying to see the O'Keefe's, but they keep pinning down to Karen, which is totally fine, but
Every time they go into a sidebar, that's the position they take.
right. Like, I want to just pan up a little. Let me see the O'Keefe's, like Paul and his wife, they're rock stars. Like,
well, look at his leg. He's over there. That's Paul right
shaking.
there. Yeah, that's his
he's
knee
shaking.
bouncing.
Yep, I can see it. See, I do that when I'm like getting antsy. Like, you know what I mean? When I'm getting like, I want to move around and I can't. Like, you know, if he's sitting in a courthouse, so he can't just get up and move wherever he wants and do whatever. That's unfortunately. But yeah, they probably did realize the pink was not a good look for them, I'm guessing. That it was like a circus, you know, not my clowns, not my circus, but Jesus.
Not my circus, not my monkeys, but I know the clowns.
Right.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Another question, and if you're having trouble seeing, just let me know. Do you see The person in the far right?
Yes, I do.
Who's that?
Me.
And what do you appear to be looking at, if anything?
I appear to be looking in that direction.
Okay, can we go ahead and play this forward? Pause. Mr. Golokithis, do you recall engaging with the two men in any sort of conversation? The two men, their backs facing to us.
I mean, I can see it. I honestly do not recall it, but
Okay.
yeah.
Do you recall ever being introduced to those two gentlemen?
Yes.
Who are they?
Brian Albert, Brian Higgins.
And which one is which? Left and right.
Left is Albert, right is Higgins.
We'll go ahead and play this. Pause it. Mr. Golokithis, can I draw your attention to the upper right? Do you recognize any person facing the camera in the upper right corner?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
John O'Keefe.
About 30 more seconds, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, we've paused at 11:08. If I could ask a couple of other questions, and I think we can leave the lights down because I'm going to ask another, with the court's permission, another clip being played. Mr. Golokithis, you indicated that you don't recall the events that you're seeing. Is that still the case, or has your recollection been refreshed about what you were witnessing?
I honestly don't remember what appears to be play fighting. I don't remember that.
If we could move to runtime 1636 with the court's permission.
Okay.
Your Honor, when we play 1636. Go ahead. And pausing. Do you see yourself in the upper right-hand corner?
Yes, I do.
And do you see the two people, the two individuals, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, in the foreground?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Let's play it. Pause it. Do you see at this point, I know it's difficult, do you see John O'Keefe anywhere in the frame at this juncture?
I do not see him.
Okay. Pause. And now taking a look at the individual in the top of the screen, do you see that person?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
John O'Keefe.
And what direction is he facing us or facing away from us?
He's facing us. It looks like he's facing us.
So he would be facing the two individuals with their back to us,
Yes.
and it appears to be standing across the table, across the bar table.
Yes.
I'm going to play that for just a second.
Twist, I'm going to start working on my Cricut stuff. So if when I unmute, if it's too loud, you'd let me know and I'll turn my machine right back off. I'm just getting
I
started.
would ask you who this individual is with the fur coat,
My wife.
lining on the coat.
It's my wife.
Okay. And are you still in the same spot, upper right-hand corner?
Yes, I am.
And where's Mr. O'Keefe?
Across. He's now facing the other way,
Thank you.
away from us.
We can take this down. With regard to what you just saw, the second incident of what appeared to be two individuals touching each other, did you engage in any sort of roughhousing or play fighting that night?
I did not.
Did you engage in any grappling or wrestling that night?
I did not.
Did you see John O'Keefe engage in any wrestling or grappling or play fighting?
I do not recall him doing that.
Or do you recall him doing any sparring?
I do not recall him doing that.
Do you recall him ever putting his fists up toward any other person in that bar that night?
I do not recall him doing that.
That's all I have for this one, Sean.
All right.
Oh, if I can have
Any,
just a moment. I'm sorry. I've already got that in. 1636. I'm fine. Thank you, Your Honor.
all right, Mr. Lally, any follow-up?
Mr. Kolakithis.
As far as your observations of Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed and their relationship, you saw what they sort of depicted in public, correct?
Yes.
So fair to say, do you ever have any sort of substantial conversations with either Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed about their relationship?
A personal relationship? No, I did not.
Anything as far as your personal relationship with your wife, is that something that you would have shared or discussed with Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed?
I'm not sure. Are you asking me if I knew something about their relationship I would share with my wife or vice versa?
No, what I'm asking is from the other side. Okay, so you didn't discuss really Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed's relationship with them, correct?
Correct.
And so what I'm asking now is you didn't discuss your own relationship with your wife with Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed, correct?
That is correct.
Now, with reference to what you were just shown up on the screen, that was so memorable that you testified you don't have a memory of it, correct?
The which part?
The whatever that was between two individuals play fight.
I do not recall that.
And as far as yourself within that video, did you observe yourself appear to sort of be laughing while that was going on?
I did. I don't know if I was necessarily looking at them or the other side of the table, but yes, I did observe myself laughing.
Nothing further.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
Okay.
Oh, sidebar. Obviously, I mean, the weird thing about them approaching is it's within the earshot of the witness. So it's like, I know that they do that, like, you know, so the jury doesn't hear them and all that and other people, but it's within earshot of the witness because the courtroom is so small. Oh, there's Paul and his wife. It's the O'Keefe family and friends. Oh, that poor woman. Oh. I feel terrible. You can make all sorts of really cool stuff with a Cricut, Chris. I'll have to go out of my usual true crime content one day and show people how to use one that they have already to make some really cool stuff.
I'm a paper crafter, so I do all kinds of stuff out of paper.
That's so cool though.
I signed myself up for a craft fair, so
yeah, I need to get into a couple of those. It's hard not having a vehicle because, like, you know, getting to them, you got to do the ones within the places you can get to.
This is one that you sit there and you make the stuff at the event. So it's a demonstration.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, because it's quick too.
And so, this one's an all-day event, but it's like it'll be like a 9 to 5 that day. But that's why I'm doing it, because all it'll do is just allow me to prepare for the next one. So
hopefully you can make some decent money.
Oh, it's more about my social anxiety.
We'll keep this, just one
Well,
more
that
question.
too.
You testified previously at another hearing that Karen Reed, quote, was actually singing John's praises about how good of a person he was, a father figure, for taking in the kids several years ago and, being there for them and praising them and sacrificing his life to raise them, end quote. You remember saying that?
Yes, I do.
Is that true?
100%.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Kolakakis, you are all set, sir.
Thank you.
Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor, the Commonwealth to call Miss Karina Kolakithis to the stand.
Okay.
So his wife. I have copious notes here. Their last name is
It's Greek.
Yeah, it's definitely Greek. Definitely Greek.
Can you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell
Me
your last
too.
name for the jury?
Starving.
It's Karina Kolakithis, Kolokithas.
And where is it that you live, ma'am?
I live in Canton.
And how long have you lived in Canada?
We lived in Canton for about 13 years. 21 years.
And when you say we, who, if anyone, do you live in Canada?
I live with my husband and my 2 daughters.
And what's your husband's name?
His name is Nicholas.
And how many daughters do you have?
I have 2,
And about how old are they?
18 and 16.
And do you work, ma'am?
I do work.
And what do you do for work?
I'm a pharmacist.
And your husband works as well?
He does.
What does he do?
He's an attorney.
Now, if I could turn your attention to
Happy Nurses Week. I wish all
Oh,
nurses
come
out there
on.
financial compensation.
Damn, they're hitting the ads hard.
They are hitting the ads hard. Like, dude, us small channels are the ones that need the
It was a
coin,
Friday and a
not
Saturday.
them. Court TV makes plenty of money. Like, Jesus.
Well, you're going to end up getting a copyright on this.
after you left work, where did you
Ugh, it's
I
annoying.
went to
Court TV.
the Canton Junction.
And why did you go?
We got a text saying some parents from the varsity team were going to be meeting up there. So I thought it would be a good idea to go and stop by and grab something to eat before the game.
And when you say varsity team, which sport was that?
It's basketball.
Was that your older daughter or younger daughter that was on that?
My older daughter played on that team.
And so at some point there was a game for the varsity girls basketball team.
That's correct.
And where was that game that night?
At Canton High,
And do you recall who they played?
they played Foxborough.
And do you recall when the game was?
You mean time?
Yes.
6:30.
And so you mentioned that you went to the Canton Junction for about an hour. So about what time did you get to the Canton Junction?
I believe I got there around 6. I'm not sure.
And following the Canton Junction, where did you go for work?
Went to Canton High to watch my daughter play.
And within sort of the stands at a Canton High girls varsity basketball game, were there certain people that you would typically sort of sit with when you watch the game?
We would just sit with whoever we knew. Usually it was the parents of the girls that played on the varsity team.
And who were some of those parents?
Some of them were the McCabe's, the Fitzgeralds, people like that.
And the McCabe's, what are their names?
Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
And how long had you and your family known the McCabe's?
I think we've known them for about 9 years or so.
And did they have a, excuse me, a daughter on the team as well?
They did.
And so you arrived to the game. As far as your husband was concerned, did you observe him there?
He was there already.
And where did you go to sit?
I went in I don't exactly remember where I went to sit in the vicinity of my husband and those parents.
And following that game, where did you go from there?
So after the game, we went, usually at the end of the game, you'd go down, talk to the players, congratulate them, and then I told everybody I was going home.
And did you in fact go home?
I did go home.
And after you arrived home, what, if anything, happened?
I started getting text messages from my husband, and he said that some of the parents were going to go to grab something to eat, and I should go.
And what, if any, hesitation did you have about that?
I was tired. I worked all day. Pretty much I was done. So I had already almost started changing out of my clothes, and I said I wasn't going to go.
And eventually, did you decide to go?
My kids told me to go. They did. They actually, they said to me, you never go out, you don't do anything. Dad's by himself, you should go and just keep him company while he eats dinner. So that's what I did.
And so based on that, you decided to go?
I did, reluctantly. Sorry, reluctantly I went, yes.
And where is it that you went?
So that's when I went to CF. I'm sorry, I went to the waterfall. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
And is the waterfall, is that somewhere you had been before?
I had been to the waterfall before.
And where is that located in the town of Canton?
It's on Washington Street in Canton.
And so obviously your husband was already there. You took separate cars. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And about what time is it that you got to the water?
I believe I got to the waterfall around 9:30 at night.
And where did you park your car in relation to the waterfall?
So I actually found parking right on Washington Street, and I was across the street from the waterfall.
And when you arrived and when you came in, who, if anyone, did you recognize sort of when you first came into the waterfall?
So I walked into the waterfall, and there, pretty much I didn't know anybody except for Matt McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, and my husband.
And if you could describe for the jury sort of when you walk in the door, the people that you knew as far as your husband and the McCabe's, where were they in relation to you walk in the door, where are they?
So you walk in the door, there was a band in the front playing, and then there were high top tables, and they were at the back of the high top tables.
And if I was standing sort of at the doorway of the waterfall, the entrance way in, and facing those high top tables, which side were your husband and the McCabe's on from that perspective?
On the right. I believe the band was playing on the, if you walked in the door, the band was in like the top part of the, like on the left, and they were on the right.
And the band that was playing that night, fair to say, it was fairly loud in there?
It was extremely loud in there, yes.
And as far as, obviously you're at a bar, people are drinking, is that correct?
That is correct.
And what, if anything, did you have to drink that night?
I drank water that night.
And why was that?
I typically don't drink a lot. I suffer from migraines, so one like alcoholic beverage sometimes can set me off for days. So I chose water.
Now, as far as that high top table that you went to with your husband and the McCabe's, were there other people at that table?
There were other people there.
And did you know or recognize any of those other people at the table?
So it was pretty much all of Jennifer McCabe's family. I did not know them, maybe had seen them around town and stuff like that, but I didn't know anybody other than my husband and Matt and Jen.
So fair to say that you sort of gravitated or stayed towards that end of the table?
That is correct. I talked to them for a bit, and then I think Jen started introducing me to some people, and I met some of her family.
Now, as far as sort of the overall sort of demeanor within the bar that night and within the group that you were at the high top table with, how would you describe it?
Everybody was happy, having a good time.
No arguments amongst anybody, and any time that you saw throughout the entire time you were there?
The whole time I was there was no issues at all.
Now, at some point later on in the evening, who, if anyone else, that you recognized or knew came into the bar?
So I believe I was actually about to leave, and that's when Karen and John came in.
And just to be clear, when you say Karen, you mean Karen Reed, is that correct?
That is correct.
And just to be clear who we're talking about, do you see Karen Reed in Portland today?
I do.
And could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article of clothing?
She's sitting right there.
That's a record reflect identification.
Okay.
Now, Mr. O'Keefe, John O'Keefe, how did you know him?
So John, his niece and my younger daughter were friends.
Were friends, are friends?
They are friends.
And about how long had you known John O'Keefe?
John, we've probably known for 8 years or so.
And if you recall, when was it about that you had met the defendant, Ms. Reed?
I met Miss Reed at, I'm not sure exactly I think the first time I met her was at Jen McCabe's house.
And if you know about when was that in reference to his date of January 28th, 2020?
I believe I met her sometime in 2020.
Sometime in 2020 at Ms. McCabe's house.
That is correct.
And how would you describe sort of the nature of your relationship between either yourself and Mr. O'Keefe, or yourself and who did you know better, Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed?
I knew Mr. O'Keefe better. We saw him all the time. My daughter would have play dates with his niece. My husband coached basketball that his niece played on his team. So he was a great guy. We saw him all the time. Yeah.
And prior to this date of January 28th, had you ever been in any kind of social setting out with the defendant, Ms. Reed, before?
I had not been, no.
And do you recall approximately what time it was that they came in and you were about to?
I believe it was around 11 o'clock.
And at some point, did they, and by they I mean Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, did they make their way over to where you were seated at the high top?
They did. So they walked in, and John did his rounds, said hi to everybody, gave me a hug. And they headed towards us. Yes.
And when they came over to you, what, if anything, happened?
John was really happy. He started talking about Kaylee and how she had just gotten into Bishop Fan. And he was just very excited. You could tell he was super excited about that.
Now, as far as Mr. O'Keefe was concerned, what, if anything, do you recall about what he was wearing?
I believe he was wearing a baseball hat, jeans, sneakers, some kind of top.
And what, if anything, do you recall about sort of a jacket or anything like that with him at any time that you saw him that night?
I don't remember a jacket. I remember like some kind of light shirt or something, like a light hoodie-ish kind of. I don't remember a jacket.
As far as his clothing was concerned, what, if anything, do you recall about the condition of it? Were there any sort of tears or disheveled to?
He looked fine. Nothing about his clothing stood out to me.
Now, as far as what you observed as far as interactions between the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe that night, anything out of the ordinary that you observed while you were at the bar?
The defendant. Say that again.
as far as their interactions between Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, anything out of the ordinary that you observed between the two of them that evening as well?
I saw nothing. I did not see anything.
And extending that sort of to the entire group at the high top table that you were with, anything that you observed sort of out of the realm of the demeanor that you've already described at any point in time in the evening?
No, everybody was having a great time.
Now, with regard to sort of where you were positioned at the high top table in regard to Mr. O'Keefe, was he closer to your end, or where was he located?
I'm not sure. I don't know where he ended up going. I know that Karen stayed with me. And then I'm not sure where John went, but I know he was talking to the guys probably.
So Mr. O'Keefe was moving around a bit, talking to different people.
Yes,
And Ms. Reed was down towards where you were, is that correct?
that is correct.
And who, if anyone else, was sort of down your end of the table? Who were you talking to when Ms. Reed came up?
It was Jen McCabe,
So
the three of us.
when Ms. Reed comes and joins, is essentially Ms. Reed, the defendant, yourself, and Ms. McCabe.
That is correct.
And when Ms. Reed first comes up, what, if any, conversation did she have with either yourself or Ms. McCabe?
She started talking to Jen first, and then they had a conversation, and then we started talking.
And that first sort of initial conversation between the defendant and Ms. McCabe, did you hear any of that conversation?
I did not. It was loud. I don't know what they were talking about.
Now, as far as, obviously you're at a bar and people are drinking, what, if anything, did you observe Mr. O'Keefe be drinking that night?
I believe he was drinking beer.
And as far as Ms. Reed was concerned, what, if anything, did you observe her to be drinking that
She was drinking something out of a clear glass, perhaps.
night? So clear glass with a clear liquid in it?
Correct.
Now, as far as through any conversation that you had with either the defendant or Mr. O'Keefe, did you have any understanding of sort of where they came from prior to coming into the walk?
So they had come from across the street.
And what is across the street?
From the bar, I think, so it was CF McCarthy's.
And so as far as the conversation that you, at some point in time during the course of the evening, you had a conversation with Ms. Reed, is that correct?
We talked for quite a while.
And during that time that you were talking for quite a while, as far as, was that strictly sort of the two of you, or was Ms. McCabe involved in those conversations as well?
Miss McCabe was involved with those conversations.
So just to.
It was the three of us.
The three of you are talking.
Hmm.
Okay. And with respect, to the defendant's relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did she say about that?
So she started by saying how much she admired him, how much he did for the children, just how she looked up to him for that. She started with that. Well, she started talking about my kids first, and then she started talking about John.
So she spoke about your kids?
About my daughter, yeah.
A little bit of a glowing fashion, is that correct?
She did. She always had a way of like saying, I don't know, she seemed to love my younger daughter, and she said that she really liked my daughter's relationship with John's niece. So she first started with that conversation, and then she went on talking about John and his relationship.
And then after she talked a little bit about that, what, if anything else, did she talk about?
So she started talking about how much he sacrifices, how he's like unconditionally puts all his time and effort into the kids, how she admired him for that, and how she also wished that some of the family members would step up and help out a little bit more, because he took all the burden on himself.
And what, if anything, else did she say about that in relation to sort of their relationship?
Just that she wished they had a little bit more time to go out, go on dates, go on vacation. But she did mention that they had planned a trip or something like that, that she was excited about.
Now, about what time would you say it was that you left? From the waterfall? Exhausted as to that?
Say that, could you rephrase that?
Memory exhausted as to that particular point.
I believe it was more than once. Is that your question?
That's my question.
Yes.
Now, other than that, what if any other discussion was there as far as where people were wanting to go or intending to go after the walk?
So after that was kind of, put to rest, then I think there was discussion about, well, Jen McCabe brought up, let's go to my sister's house.
And is that somewhere that you or your husband, to your knowledge, had ever been to before?
We had never been to her house before, no.
And was that something that was sort of a private invitation, or was that sort of open to the group at the table?
I think it was said out loud, like, hey, anybody wants to go, we can go to my sister's on Fairview. I wasn't specifically invited myself. I just think it was put out there.
And did either yourself or your husband take anyone up on an invitation? Did you go to Fairview after the waterfall?
We did not go. I actually said to him, there's no way we're going anywhere. We're going home.
And just to be clear, by him, you mean your husband?
My husband, yeah.
And around the time of midnight or so when you were leaving, who, if anyone, did you sort of walk out with initially?
So I believe, let me think. It was always Jen, myself, and Karen. So we brought up, and Karen went over to John, something like that. He put his arm around her. I don't know if they had a conversation, they talked. It seemed like they were quite lovey-dovey at that point. And then that's when Jennifer McCabe went up to Karen and said, you're coming with me. And she grabbed her, she put her arm around her and she said in front of me, she's like, you're coming with me, you're coming with me.
And just to be clear, sort of how she said that, was that in sort of a forceful way or
No, joking around, hey, you come with me. We're gonna, and then Karen said, where are we going? And Jen said, it doesn't matter. It'll be a surprise. It was something like that.
And did the three of you sort of walk towards the door to the parking lot together?
Yes.
And where was your husband at this point?
He was behind. He was with Matt McCabe. They were helping the band clean up and get their stuff together. And it was the three of us in the front, meaning the women.
And at the initial time when you're walking out, you and Ms. McCabe and the defendant, where is Mr. O'Keefe?
I'm not a little bit behind us. I'm not sure.
Not directly with your group, but
not with us. No.
Now, at some points you get outside of the waterfall, is that correct?
That's correct.
And at some point when you're outside of the waterfall, do you see Mr. O'Keefe at that point?
I did. All of a sudden, it was weird. I see Karen with John, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I thought she was going with Jen. And that's just what made me notice it. It was that the whole, like, Jen wanting Karen to go with her, and then all of a sudden I see Karen with John. I just thought it, I was just like, oh, so it made me notice it.
And so you proceed to your car, I'm presuming on Washington Street, correct?
That is correct.
And if you recall, which direction was your car facing, like down towards the waterfall or away from the waterfall?
It was away from the waterfall.
And who, if anyone else, did you observe walking in the direction of Washington Street at the same time as yourself?
That's when I saw Karen and John walking.
And they were walking in that direction as well?
Correct.
Did you see them approach or get near to some sort of vehicle?
It looked like they were walking towards a black SUV of some sort.
And have you seen either the defendant or Mr. O'Keefe in relation to a dark or a black SUV prior to that date?
I believe I had, yes.
And whose car did you believe it was?
I thought it was Karen's car.
And which side of that vehicle did you observe Karen walking to?
She was walking to the driver's side, but again, I was more concerned about crossing Washington Street, and there was a little bit of snow at that point. So I didn't see, like, I saw them walking in that direction, like her going to the driver's side and John going to the other side, but I didn't see anything after that.
And were they on the same side of the street as you or the opposite?
They were facing the opposite direction.
So you were facing away from the waterfall, they were facing towards the waterfall, is that right?
They were just like, we were in different directions. So I was like, it's hard to explain, but they were facing, like I was facing up and they were facing back.
And different sides of the street, is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you got in your car when you left, is that correct?
That is correct.
And around that time that you left, I think you alluded to it, but when you got to your car, what was the weather like at that point?
It had just started snowing. You could see the street still.
So you could still sort of see the blacktop through whatever snow was on the ground.
That is correct.
With the court's permission, I'd just like to publish what's been marked as Exhibit 53, just a couple.
Lopez, real quick on that commercial.
So Ms. Kolokithis, do you recognize what's up on the screen?
Yes.
And what do you recognize it to be?
That's the waterfall.
And is this a video that you've seen on a prior occasion?
Yes.
Now, before you, ma'am, there should be a laser pointer. If there's any need for either myself or another attorney, all I would ask you to do is just sort of press that button on it and direct it at the screen.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So from this video, first of all, as far as the people in the video, do you recognize anybody in the video?
It's really hard to see, but it's you want me to point?
If you recognize anyone, I would ask you to draw the jury's attention to
So-
that person and explain who that is.
Oh, sorry. That, I believe, is my husband with that. Maybe, I'm not sure.
So if you don't know, or if you can't tell, or you don't know the people,
I'm not sure.
okay.
It's hard to tell.
Now, Mrs. Kolokithis, just from up on this video, you recognize sort of the table that you were at or around on the evening of January
Yes,
28th?
the high top, yeah.
And if you could just direct the jury's attention to, generally speaking, which side of the table that you spent your time talking to Ms. McCabe and the defense?
So, like, if we're pointing to here, I'd be on that side, like the left side of the table, if you want to call it the left side.
And the area where the band was,
Is
if you could.
The band is here, like, that's what I meant, the left, yeah, on the front.
And if you know the front door area, sort of where is that located?
So it's like right there.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could just run this video from 10:59 to 11 p.m. Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if you could take that down, and with the court's permission, I would ask for, from the same channel 3, the 6th video. And Ms. Gilman, if I could direct you to 12:09 and 50 seconds. Thank you. Keep it positive. Again, Mrs. Kolokithis, you recognize what's up on the screen as just later on in the evening at the waterfall, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And is this towards the end of the evening?
Yes, it is.
And fair to say that the lights have been turned up, so it's a little easier.
So
to
now
see
I
things?
can recognize a few more people.
And so from what you can see up on the screen now, if you could, using that laser pointer, just direct the jury's attention to anybody that you recognize.
Oh, okay, so that's me right there. And then my husband is right there, Nicholas. And I don't know if that's Matt, Jen. And I can't tell because of the barcode up there.
With the date and time
But
stamp.
yeah, I can't see who that is.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could play it from this.
Oh, I
point.
see John too.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, please go ahead.
And I see John. John's right there.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if you could play it from this point till 12:11 and 4 seconds. Ms. Gilman, if you could pause it right there. Now, as far as, just for the record, we're at 12, 10, and 38. You see sort of 3 individuals going towards the front entrance.
Yes.
So you just have to say.
Yes.
And with respect, if with that laser pointer, if you could just identify for the jury who, if anyone, you recognize from that group.
Okay, so that's Jennifer McCabe, that's me, and that's Karen.
So you're walking sort of towards the exit at the same time, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. You can pause that, Ms. Gilman. Now there's another individual sort of making their way to the doorway. Do you recognize that person?
Yes, that's John.
That's John O'Keefe.
John O'Keefe, yes.
Exiting from the wall.
Correct.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just play the last 2 seconds. Okay. Now, Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you from the same exhibits, but from channel 1. And the 3rd video down on channel 1. If I could ask you to fast forward to about 12:11. Essentially, what I'm going to ask Ms. Gilman if you could play this from 12:11 and 0 to 12:11 and 25 seconds. But I'm sorry, first, if I could ask you to just pause it for 1 second. And I know it's an awful time to pause it, but before the flag blew in front of the camera, do you recognize what's depicted up there?
Can you repeat the question,
What's
please?
in this video generally without what's blocking the camera right now? Do you recognize what?
It's the exit.
So that's the exit to the waterfall?
Correct.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if you could. pause right there. Individual sort of down towards the bottom of the frame. Do you recognize who that is?
It's Karen and John.
So that would be the point in time where you say they sort of link up at the front door, then walk towards Washington Street.
That's correct.
And if you could, just with reference to the screen that we're looking up here in Exhibit 53, where is Washington Street? You had parked and where you observed Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed walking.
So, okay. Trying to think of the buildings. That's the back parking lot where they're like where you see the cars, and you have to take a left.
So directly in front of where Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed are standing is the back parking lot, and then to the left is Washington Street.
Yeah, I think you have to walk that way.
Okay.
And then you'll hit Washington Street.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just play through 25 seconds. You could pause there. Have you seen an individual in the parking lot area?
I do.
And do you recognize who that person is?
I believe it's Jennifer,
By that you mean, I'm sorry, Ms. McCabe?
Miss McCabe.
And Ms. Gilman, if you go to the last. Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down, please. May I have one moment, John?
Yes.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Hello.
You and I have never met.
We have not.
We've never had a conversation.
Never.
We've certainly never interviewed
Nope.
together.
Never.
So this is our first time speaking.
Yes.
I want to direct your attention to part of your testimony on direct examination when you're questioning by Mr. Lally. You indicated that before Ms. Reed and Mr. O'Keefe left the bar, Ms. Reed had been making some statements about Mr. O'Keefe.
Okay. Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
You indicated that she said that she admired him,
Yes.
that she looked up to Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
She always had a way of complimenting him.
Yes.
That he took so much responsibility on as it pertained to the children,
Yes.
and that she did wish that they had more time together.
Yes.
They planned a trip together,
Yes.
and she was excited about that.
Correct.
And she indicated that John was excited about that as well.
Yes.
Just before leaving the bar, you indicated that Jennifer McCabe said to Miss Reed, "You're coming with me," correct?
Yes.
She didn't say, "You and John come with me."
No. Correct.
That was directed just to Miss Reed.
Yes.
You're familiar with the town of Canton generally?
Yes.
You know that the distance between the Waterfall Bar and 34 Fairview would be maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes drive.
Probably.
So just after these statements were made, they went to 34 Fairview. 5 minutes later, 7 minutes later, they'd be sitting in front of 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, Ms. Cole, anything?
Just very briefly, Your Honor. So Mrs. Kolokithis, with reference to your relationship with John O'Keefe, as far as what you were relaying was what the defendant had said to you at the bar that night, correct?
Correct.
And fair to say you didn't have any conversation with Mr. O'Keefe in reference to relationship or trips or anything like that?
Not that night. No.
And as far as your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe is, do you have any sort of discussions at any point in time about sort of his relationship with Miss Reed or anything going on in that relationship?
He didn't tell me personal things. No.
You didn't have that type of relationship, correct?
Correct.
And this time out on January 28th, that was the first time that you had been out socially with the defendant, Miss Reed, correct?
Correct.
And so as far as what went on behind sort of closed doors at their home or anything like that, you didn't know anything about it?
I did not know.
Nothing further.
I have one question, Your Honor, if I may. But what you did observe between the two of them that night, to use your words, they were lovey-dovey.
They were.
All right, Ms. Colakithis, you are all
Thank
set.
you. Thank you, Your Honor.
So it's quarter of. Why don't I see counsel for just a minute? Jurors, feel free to stand.
Looks like it's a sidebar right now, guys. I'm still out at the bus stop, FYI. The bus is running late, so I can't change anything on the screen. All I can do is talk from here. I mean, I don't know where Jackson was going with that, really, but she does always look at her attorneys like that during cross. Like, she wants to tell them stuff. Like, she gets this, like, almost aggravated look that she can't do it herself.
Okay, so please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If
Looks
you
like they're
have
ending it.
received or
Oh, here's the bus. Hold on.
Please disregard it and let us know. So we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Jurors, closing your notebooks and leaving them on the chairs. Gather your belongings. Follow me. All rise. Jury out, please.
Interesting. I like to look at their faces when they're all leaving. Give me like 2 minutes, guys, and I'll pop back on with my thoughts about the whole thing. I'm just getting my little one off the bus now. No, Karen has not stayed friends with any of those people.
Any evidentiary issues I need to be concerned about tomorrow with this next witness?
Not for the Commonwealth.
Your Honor, we have, I believe, provided every exhibit that we intend to introduce through this witness. They are all photographs and or screenshots that we would have lined up. I'm happy to show them to Mr. Lally in terms of the specific ones that we would be using before we leave today.
Okay, so just so it's clear, anything you intend to introduce, you have to show them in advance.
I know, we've provided them is what I said originally.
So,
And I certainly will show them before I show them to the witness. What I'm offering is to show them now before we break. If
so
Mr.
yes, so I'm telling you that, yes,
That's
show them to him before we
That's
break.
exactly what I suggested.
Anything that you intend to show us, introduce tomorrow.
Sure.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
All rise for the court, please.
Looks like they're wrapping everything up right now. I'm almost back to the house. Sorry, guys. But did anybody catch who they said the next witness was going to be? She was worrying about evidentiary issues. Did anybody catch that? And yes, Karen did ghost all of them, the family and the kid. Back to us at night. Stop. The friends, like, not hiding, like, I mean, come on, that doesn't make sense. My fiance died in a house fire, and I sure as hell didn't hide and grab my stuff and disappear, like, that's just not a normal thing to do. Oh, the pictures of the firefighter. And I pushed away most are be true. Like, that I me and my friend Kelly, like we do the Saco trip every year, and we like we're the ones who organize for it. And even that, it brought up people. No. People that we don't. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna shut my phone off and sit back down on the computer. Of course, I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, am I still roboting? Hold on. There's no audio because I was roboting because it was on my phone. But that's the end of this trial for today anyway. So,
Want some chicky balls?
no, I don't want chicky balls.
Talking about
But I'm gonna end the stream anyway because it's over for today. There wasn't any huge bombshells or anything. So
you want this
I will see you guys tomorrow. And if I have an update on Heels in the meantime, I will let you know. And I will let everybody know as soon as I know what's going on with her. But as far as we know, she's okay. It was like some sort of accident or something. But as we know of, she's okay as of right now. So if I have an update, I'll put it on Twitter or something so you guys know. Okay. Bye.
Is the sauce good? No school today, maybe.